Radio. So welcome again to this masterclass where we're going to be covering how to become a software developer, a business analyst, or a privacy professional. And this masterclass, of course, is organized by Sterling Tech Solutions. And I say welcome to all of you. So how the agenda is going to run today, introduction by myself, and then we go into, we decided to start with the harder or the more technical side of things, which is, of course, software development for beginners by Gbenga, who is my co-host, and he's going to introduce himself shortly. And then we go into introduction to business analysis and the steps that you need to become a privacy professional. And then we take more Q&A, then we'll tell you about a bit more about the program. So who am I? Like I said earlier, I'm the director and CEO of Sterling Tech Solutions. We used to be called Sterling Careers Limited. So you will still find that on some of our materials as we are still updating things gradually. Now I've got a master's in human resource management, which I got from University of South Wales, United Kingdom, a couple of years ago. And I've been in the tech space over about a decade now, working first of all as a business analyst, and I did a pivot into the privacy space, which I've been for nearly 8 years now, and something I'm very passionate about. Now, why did I start Sterling Tech Solutions, or why am I passionate? Was because coming into the UK as an immigrant from Nigeria originally, I had a lot of struggles, sort of trying to get into the corporate world, even though I had degrees and postgraduate degrees and all of on different certifications, as it were. But it was just very difficult to kind of navigate the corporate world to get the type of job that I wanted. And so it was challenging for me, especially as a mom. Well, first of all, of course, before getting married, it was very challenging. I wanted to get into HR. It was very difficult. But cutting the long story short, I found how to, make a career change into the tech space. And since then, it's been an on and upward trend. And then I've also helped a lot of people to get in. And someone said, you can actually do more. You can, help more people. Why don't you start something more structured and more formal? And hence Sterling Tech Solutions was born. And I've been doing this for over 4 years now. Okay, so my co-host, I think what I'll do is I'll just hand over straight to him. He'll introduce himself and he will go straight into his session. Or actually, maybe we'll come back to that. Let me talk more about Sterling so that as soon as Gbenga introduces himself, he'll go straight into his session. So just to let you know a little bit about us. For those of you who don't, I think most of you have been following in either our Facebook group or Instagram, you would have seen a little bit about us. But we are called Sterling Tech Solutions. Recently, we started, I think for about 3-4 years, we've really been focusing on skills development, in the area of business analysis, project management, data privacy, and now we're looking to launch software development as one of the career paths that we offer. Recently, we also branched into IT consulting. And so what we do is we help small businesses who are on, bootstrap budget, to sort of help them to develop or, implement whatever solutions they have or to meet whatever business needs that they have. So we have an in-house capability that handles that. But then our skills development hub, which is what we call the Career Change Skills Academy, really focuses on training, and we are fully remote. Everything that we do is fully remote. And so we have people from Canada, the US joining our flagship programs. And of course, like I said earlier, we focus on business analysis, project management, data privacy, and now we're going to be looking at software development towards the summer, between the summer and the end of the year. We're also going to start looking at offering data analysis. A few people have been asking us about that. That was something we're looking to launch in the new year. Now, all our courses are done, like I said, remotely. So you can join from wherever. And we are also very flexible in the way that we deliver our programs. We're very big on, hands-on experience. We like certifications and all of that, but we believe that what gets you the job is learning how to do, picking up those skills, and that would also help your confidence. And so that's why our program is designed really to make you job market ready. Saturdays, we do our training classes, our theory classes, and then the internship or the project-based learning is all done during the day in the evening. Just a few of our team members, not everyone. So we have Tunde, who has been in tech for over 20 years, certified Scrum Master, has ex-JLR, Arriva. This is just a few of the places that he's worked and his skill set. Sometimes he helps us with the business analysis training when he has the time. We have Kaushalia, who is our PM trainer. Those of you who are going to be joining the PM class, in fact, some of you are already registered for January start. Kaushalia is going to be starting with you next week, Saturday. She takes the PM class, and she's also experienced and has been in tech for a good number of years. We have Laide, who's also a PM and PMO trainer. We have Esther, who is the person that holds everything together. She's our PMO manager. And Helen Williams, our BA manager. Annie is our product manager, our PO, we call business enablement expert. So she kind of works with the interns, when you join the program. And our mission really is to bridge the gap between theory and the capability to do the job. So what that means is you find a lot of people really big on different certifications. They get all the theory, but they're not able to apply it. And so what we try to do with our programs is to help you, interpret and put to practice all that theory that you would have picked up, during whatever course that you have done. So that's what we are really big about, to bridge that gap. And essentially the way we work, we are very big on also reviewing performance. So it's not just joining and nobody checks in on you. We have that support network, which is really focused on ensuring that what you're doing, someone is looking at it. And we help you to build confidence through our skills development route, because a lot of times people have so many certificates and all of that, but the confidence to do the job or even to start attending for interviews, they don't have it because they haven't. And the way we think about this is the fact that if you haven't developed the hands-on experience, if you have not been able to do that project, it's difficult for you to get the confidence, because anybody can read and pass a certification, and so, but when you have an interview, that confidence comes from doing. And that's why our mantra is you learn by doing. And all of these other bits I'm sure you can pick up. Now we used to have in-person sessions. As you can see, this is pre-COVID, where this was, I think, one of our London contact centers. This is, but everything of course is now virtual since COVID, and I think we decided to remain remote because that way we can cater to more people. Now, like I said, my career change story, I think I've already mentioned that I struggled. I had to settle for all sorts of jobs, and a few of you are here. Some of you have reached out. You said you relocated from Africa. You've had to settle for jobs that you ordinarily would not, earning peanuts, if I may put it that way, and not getting value for what you actually put in. And I've been there. That's what I'm trying to say here. And so it's usually it's a journey. So you start from there. I was teaching assistant. I did supply teaching in secondary schools. I did all sorts of things, just to try to find my way. Before I then found out that, okay, I could actually make a career change into IT business analysis, earning as much as you can see on the screen. And it's been an upward trend ever since. But my point here is, because of the struggles that I went through, I just thought, okay, what can I do to help other people so that they don't have to go through what I went through? And hence Sterling was born. So I'm going to hand over to Gbenga now, so he can introduce himself and get straight into how to become a software developer. Over to you, Gbenga. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Veronica. I think that was juicy intro. I'm really excited to see what we can come out of this. So can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry, hold on, please. Okay, yeah. So my name is Gbenga. I've been a software programmer for a while. Um, and I just started off as a programmer. I went into like upskill just like Veronica did as well. And now I'm a CTO in London. I currently work for like a 3D virtual reality and augmented reality company where I lead the software development there. So it's interesting to have this kind of platform because I've done something similar um, before in Nigeria where I was teaching kids how to code. Except we are not kids now. These are professionals working, and I'm sure you have like a lot of things you're doing in your daily time. But the good thing is that I know exactly how that feels, and I know how to structure it in a way where you don't need any prior knowledge. You don't have any prior knowledge of how tech works. I'm going to be explaining it like a layman, and you're going to write the code like a professional, right? I'm also going to make sure this is fast because I understand that we have so many other things to touch through. Um, yeah, so let's just go ahead. I think you can change the slides now. Okay, so I'm not going to be giving you all the like the technical descriptions and explanations just so that we can understand how it works. And again, most of us are using software in our daily lives, so um, I think my analogies will help us will help hit it home. So what is software? Software is just a set of instructions you tell a computer to do. It's as simple as that. Imagine you you want to leave your house as a parent or as an elder brother, and you just wrote something on a piece of paper for the younger brother or your son to do before you get back, right? So you are literally writing an instruction down on a piece of paper and handing it over to the person that is going to carry out the task. So that is what software is. We're telling the computer hardware to do something, and which now makes us software developers those that write the instructions that the user, whoever is going to use the computer, will help them interact with the computer. So that's what a software is. And if you look at this image here, or this diagram I put here, you will see that it's a downward trend from the user. They're trying to get to the hardware at the bottom. So user at the top trying to get to the hardware at the bottom. But if before you could do that, because the hardware only understands binaries like zeros and ones. So imagine you trying to just tell it to copy. Copy is literally someone's algorithm, someone's software instruction that they've written that you just use every day. So when you click on it, it goes directly to the hardware and it copies whatever the text or whatever it is. So yeah, the software is just the bridge between the user and the hardware because it will have been difficult for us to understand and be writing in zeros and ones for us to do things. And if you check inside the middle diagram, you can see that like it's divided into two. That's the software part. There's the operating system and the application, right? Operating system are things like Ubuntu. Um, some of us are use Microsoft Windows. Those are what we call low-level languages because they're closer to the hardware. So you don't need to know how that works. What we use on our daily lives is mostly application software. Things like, for example, this Zoom right now we're using. It is an application software that is sitting on an operating system. So what we're going to be focusing on here is how to build those application softwares, right? Yeah, I think we can go to the next slide now. All right, so how do those instructions I explained the other time, like, how do you now write those instructions? It's simple, use a language. Just the same way with there's Spanish, there's English, and all sorts of languages. There is programming language that you use to talk to the computer. And that's exactly how you write those instructions, right? If you look at this diagram here, let's start from the bottom that says executable machine code. That is what the actual hardware understands. Now, we can't do that talking, yeah? So a group of programmers now came up and wrote low-level program, which is in the middle. So in like 30 years ago, all the programmers could only write low-level programs or code for them to talk to the computer. But then to make things easier, they took it up. Like, you know what? Let's create high-level programs that just looks like English, which is converted into low-level program, which is now being executed by the machine. So we are going to be writing in this high-level program. Now, we are the programmers, yeah? The users are at the top of this high-level program because all they just do is they have a graphic user interface. They just click, copy, drag and drop and stuff. So you are the ones that's creating those high-level programs that allow other users to use the computer. Yeah, so I think we can move on to the next slide now. Oh yeah, so if you can think of it already, those high-level programmers that there are different things we've been doing with software programming, is desktop applications, web applications, mobile, database, AI now, embedded system, and game development. It is a very wide, like wide space, but just for like an entry into how things work, we are going to be focusing on web applications. But the good thing is that the structure remains the same. If you know how to write any web application, you just probably need to learn another language for you to be able to write for games. Learn another language for you to write for mobile. Now, the more vast you are in all these things, the more people say I'm a full stack. It's just like you bragging I'm multilingual. I can speak Spanish and English and stuff. So, but in the world we live in right now, you probably don't need to learn everything. You just probably need to learn one or two languages and be good at it. And yeah, and you get to the top. So focusing on web applications, just like I said, I'm using like analogies of things that we've probably used over time. Right now, some of us are joining with a mobile or a desktop. So let's take that as a browser. Someone wrote the code. That is a desktop application, right? So the desktop application allows us to browse the web, and the web is filled up of these three languages: CSS, HTML, and JavaScript. Now, there are other languages like Python, the rest, right? But this is the best entry into it because it gives you an idea of how things work. You can literally see what you've done and test it and not get bored, because programming is like looking at Chinese for the first time. You don't understand Mandarin. You just be like, what am I reading? But immediately you know how to speak the language. You can now read and write your own as well. So we access through the browser, which is written in mostly these three languages, and we save those files on a server. A server is just a computer in another location, right? I can use my computer right now to serve anyone, and it becomes a server. But these are just like bigger computers that can handle a lot of bandwidth. So that's what we call server. And yeah, you have a website. So yeah, I think I've explained this enough. By the way, you can drop your questions if you have any, just so you don't forget. You can just write them in the chat. I'll attend to them. So let's move on. Okay, now that I've explained that uh, software coding or software programming is just writing in computer language, immediately it comes up to your screen. You just be like, what am I looking at? Right? But if you actually look deep down, it is just another language it's just English in a different syntax. I've also tried to explain what this code does. It's a very simple code. It's a Python program that simulates buying tomatoes and checking whether they're ripe or not, right? And if you look at it, there are different classes. Why are we having like brackets, equals to, and things like that? But let's look at line 4. There's this function that says DEF. Now, what I mean by function is like programmers have already created tools for you to use. You just need to grab them. For example, let's say you're a robotics engineer, but the only thing you do is that someone gives you the hand, the leg, the brains, the head and stuff, and the hardware. You just put it together. You are not the one that created all those parts. You're just assembling it, right? That is like what a software developer is. You don't have to create your own functions every time. Someone has already created the hand, just put it into the shoulder. So this DEF here is like a hand that another programmer has written before. But immediately seeing I'm saying I am defining a function. I'm calling the function check tomato ripeness. That's what I'm doing. And I'm passing a tomato variable into that. Again, all these are like terms you probably don't understand, but they are literally very, very simple. Now, if you look at the next line, inside this function or this body of code I'm writing, I'm saying that if the tomato is ripe, just return a message that says you've got a ripe tomato. Else, if the tomato is unripe, then return a message that says, oops, this tomato needs more time to ripen. Then let's say if it did not fall into any of this function, if it's not ripe or unripe, then this is invalid inputs. Please enter ripe or unripe. Can you see that like all of a sudden the code doesn't seem that difficult anymore just by looking at it? But if I look at it as a glance, you're just like, what was here? Then I won't go into more details. The rest just print the results. Now, what we've done here is like I've just taught you how to read a computer language. Imagine you get to the position where you can now write your own language, anything that comes to your head. Let's say I want to determine the average rate at which I walk every day, right? And you have the mobile, you have the mobile phone with you that literally has a gyrometer and stuff and things that you can just use to tap it. It knows every time you make a step. You can just write a code to count those steps and give you the average. That is what programmers do every single day, right? So just like I said, I don't want to take your time. This is just a taste of how things are and how much simpler it's going to be taught in this program. I have a few tips, which I'm still going to tell us when we get into the program. We literally learn by building projects. Doesn't matter what anybody tell you, you need to start writing your own, build your own projects. Join a community like this, where a group of people are writing together, and start small. Like you don't have to feel overwhelmed. 20 minutes a day. I'm sure we spend 30 minutes a day on TikTok and Snapchat and things like that. 20 minutes a day. It becomes so exciting that you wouldn't know when 20 minutes becomes 1 hour because you want to complete the code you're writing. That's what your mind is going to be. And because you can see you be creating something that others can use, it gets exciting. So let's go to the next one. So this is my last slide. I hope we're all still following. So this is like a content of what this program is going to contain. I've been doing this for a long time. I know exactly where and where not, what I want not to teach. So the languages that we're going to learn at the first column, the languages are like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Python, and PHP. Now, I've used a lot of languages. It's Java, C# and stuff. But I can tell you when you learn this one, they're one of the simplest to start with. And they're the ones that just by graduating of being an intern, you can find a job. And we learn these frameworks. Frameworks are just like, they're built on the languages. So it makes it easier for you to write the languages, right? I'm sure you've heard of some of these things before, but if you haven't, they are all simple things. I can assure you that. Then DevOps side, DevOps is just like in the cloud now. How do you, let's say you've written your code, you've built a small project. You can even build a website for maybe your sister that sells beads, any project at all. Then how do you put it on the cloud? I'm going to teach you how to make those things live. You put it on a website, you deploy it, and how to manage it. Then tooling, like these are the tools or things that when you know how to, you've mastered them, you can literally take up an internship role anywhere. And trust me, when you finish the program, you're already contributing to the code, right? And then how do we plan to go ahead on the roadmap? So we just start off by introducing to the concept, like when I was mentioning things like variables, algorithms, functions, and classes. I'm going to show you exactly what it means in the simplest way because we're going to be treating it like how simple it is, not how everybody has made it to seem like it's difficult. Then we build our user interface because I want you to be able to go back and see things you've done, right? Then we put it on the server. So we build the backend part, like saving it in the database. Then we put it on the server, which is a cloud architecture. Now, through all this process, you're actually going to be building a real project. like a project that I know that when it comes out, we can definitely fund, or if it becomes big, you might have even created a company that way, which will also go into your CV, because these are the things that people can see and see that you've done, you've contributed to the code. So yeah, basically, that is my part of this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
I'll hand over to
Yeah.
Veronica right now, and if you have any questions, you can just go right ahead.
Yeah, let's take some questions. Do we have, let's just have a look in the chat. Okay, someone says,
Oh,
is
someone
it
said, is it visual code you're using?
okay?
Yeah. So VS Code is just one of the tools. So it depends. If I'm writing JavaScript, I use VS Code. If I'm writing like Python, I like using PHP Storm because it's one of the best. It's a paid platform, but yeah, I like it. I tried web development. I found it hard. Well, it depends on who's teaching you. Um, let me give you an example of what I did when I did Go to the Future, because I was 7 in Ilorin, Shogbo, like 10 years ago. So these are people, because I was there to teach mathematics when I was 7. Then I realized that, because these are, like I was telling you, right, in the Oshogbo group, the school inside the Oshogbo group, these are people that didn't even know how to speak English, students. So it was difficult for me to teach mathematics with English. I started teaching mathematics Yoruba. Like, Tobati wo eléyìí, wàá wo map, that is what they call a triangle. When you measure the entire distance of the school, that's what we call a perimeter. Anyways, the point is, I was able to teach those kids, and most of them are software programmers right now. Right now, like, you imagine how the amount of joy it takes when they just make sure I just got a job somewhere. I'm not writing AI. I'm even things I'll probably have just veered away from. So yeah, I know exactly how to teach this in the simplest way. So how many months will it take to learn this? So we were going for between 3 to 6 months. All right. However, in my experience, a lot of people show interest at first, so they just get promoted to the accelerated on fast track ones, where like the more you know, the more we give you things to do, and you quickly get it done yourself. It just depends on how much time you're willing to commit to between. And in terms of the cost, I'll leave that to Veronica to to answer that at jurisdiction.
Thank you. So
CSS give me a tough time.
yeah,
CSS is actually one of the
questions.
simplest.
Okay, you can see the
By the
question.
way, for those of you who don't know what CSS is, it's an acronym for cascading style sheet. Do you know, like every time you go to your browser, what you can use to change all the colors, make it beautiful. So CSS is one of the few languages that you can literally test it and see what you're doing, like change the button, change the size, changing things like that. Um, is it learning at pace? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely learning
No,
at
I think
pace.
let me talk
So
about that.
just like why I
Sorry,
said, we're
sorry,
going to be
Gbenga.
giving some like assignments and stuff. But because we are all building a project together, right? We get to carry along.
Yeah.
Where let's say if you want to be the front-end developer, someone else will be the back-end developer, someone else want to handle the database. Because we are working as a team already, like we are using Trello, we are tracking the stages, we can all go together. However, in my experience, a lot of people learn faster than some. Is this different from a software tester? Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely it's different from a software tester. So a software tester is someone that literally just tests. Imagine you've written all this code. For example, let's say this backend part of the phase 3. Backend programming is kind of it is the one that you can't really see immediately, because like you're handling database, you're writing logic and stuff. So there are unit testers and there are like user testers. Unit testers are those that actually just make you write tests for the code, make sure it runs before it's being connected to the front end. And they're just people that test the software visually. They test it like they want it to fail, right? Before the beta, that are during the beta stage before it's been launched to live. So, but you can literally go from learning, let's say just by getting to 6 weeks, you can now decide to go into software testing. Can we just unmute to be sure? I want to get like voice responses as well. So
Okay. Who do you want
you
to?
advise someone with no computer background to discuss? It'd be difficult. It is specifically made for those without
Mhm.
any software background, specifically designed for them. So yeah, and that's why it's going to take.
Sorry, you
So don't
said you
worry,
wanted.
when we get into
Hi,
starting
Gbenga.
how easy it is for you to actually learn these things.
Can you hear me? Hi, Gbenga, can you hear me? You said you wanted to hear someone. Who did
All
you?
right. I think we're done with the questions now. So
Yeah. Okay.
you'll be teaching testing. Okay, I like this. So there's this. We usually try to go with the direction of the flow. If we realize a lot of people that want to go into testing, oh yeah, definitely, why not? As a matter of fact, in the company which I run right now in London, we have we're hiring for a tester at the moment.
Okay, so can we
Can
just
someone based in South Africa enroll with you? Oh yeah, definitely,
hi, can you hear me?
definitely,
Can you hear me?
definitely.
Hi, Gbenga, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello?
I think Veronica, you can take over now. Is Veronica still on this call?
Yeah, can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Okay, I think someone's muted me. Can you hear me, guys?
Veronica, we can hear you, but Gbenga can hear you, obviously.
Oh, I'm wondering
Sorry,
why.
hold on.
Okay, so you
I
can
don't
hear me,
think
that's fine.
I
I'm not
can. I
sure
think
because I've
someone
been
is
trying to.
talking now. I'll probably just exit and join back.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Okay, so please pop your questions, right? Because we've got to move now. We'll probably come back later. Thank you for that. Because I was wondering, I thought no one was hearing me. Right. So pop all your questions. I think we've already covered this. And I will now dive into business analysis. We put a poll out in the WhatsApp group, and it looks like quite a lot of you are interested in business analysis. So I guess you brace yourself and listen now to this bit. Right. Please mute yourself as soon as you log in because of the recording so that it is good quality for those who are going to be listening later. Trevor, can you mute everybody, please? Thank you.
Yeah. I just wanted to be sure I answered all the questions. So
Yeah, we'll come back to questions later because
okay.
yeah. So everybody just mute yourself for now, please. Okay, so we'll go straight into business analysis. Now, for those who have attended any of our free tasters before, I think you would notice that there's a slight difference in this particular one because we found that we run out of time very quickly. Gbenga, is that you? There's some noise. Can you mute yourself, please? There's some background noise. It's a bit distracting. Okay, well, the thing is, I need to, okay. Please, can you type in the chat if you can hear me? I muted everybody. I may have muted myself, but there's just somebody who's very noisy there. Let me know. Yes, we can. Brilliant. Thank you for that. Okay, yes, brilliant. Okay, let's go quickly. So yeah, those who have attended our free tasters before, you will know that we normally talk about the leveraging transferable skills. We do a little bit of the skills gap analysis or skills matching. We have removed that and we have now added that to our workshop because that takes longer, to get through. So that will not be in this free taster. So business analysis, very up my street. I love business analysis, even though I don't do a lot of it at the moment because I did a pivot recently. I'm just gonna turn my video off just so that. Okay. What is business analysis? Now, this definition is according to the International Institute of Business Analysis, popularly known as the IIBA. Business analysis, as you can see, is the practice of enabling change. Now, you will notice that I've highlighted some the key concepts in this definition, and I'll unpack that shortly. And I'm going to be going really quickly because of time. Hopefully you can catch up with the recording, and then you also do some more further research on your own. So change is very key. So take note of that. It is a practice of enabling change in an enterprise, in an organization, in a company, in a business, by defining needs and then recommending solutions that deliver value to stakeholders. Change in an enterprise, of course, an organization, a business, a company, you start by defining needs. Now that is very essential because trust me, a lot of people a lot of organizations, businesses start out by saying, oh, I have this dream, I have this business goal and this business idea, but if you talk to them, you find out that they're not able to actually articulate what is in their head. And so you as a business analyst, one of your key, function is to actually help to define this need that the business has. So people can say, oh, I'd like this, I like that. So the definition of the need is very key. Follow me. And then the next step is you're now looking to recommend solutions so that you can enable this change to deliver value. So value delivery, very essential. Recommending solutions, recommending. So one thing I always like to emphasize, that a BA should not focus on solutionizing, but you are recommending, you're just recommending. You're not saying, you're not prescribing and saying, hey, okay, we've defined this need, and hey, go and implement a CRM solution or do this and do that. But what you do is you help the business to actually, bring different perspectives, as it were. So you recommend, and at the end of the day, the business can say, right, okay, this is what we're going to go for. So you're not the one that will say, I know your problem, do this. No. A good BA will recommend the solutions. Of course, you will help to deliver, but recommending is very important. BAs in the past, you find that at the beginning, you're already solutionizing, and that is something you want to avoid. Then delivery of value is very important. So why at all would any business be thinking about, a solution, or even trying to introduce a change or anything? Is at the end of the day, they want value. What benefit is it going to add to them? Why do people even initiate projects at all? Not because they want, for the fun of it. There is that value delivery, which is very essential. So all these core concepts, they interact with each other, which I will unpack in a minute. Let's look at change. Now, what is change? Because of time, I was going to just ask you guys to work with me, and I would have asked you, what is your understanding of change? Maybe put it in the chat, but I think because of time, I will whiz through. So change is a step involved in transforming needs into solution. If you go back to that business analysis definition, you will see that, okay, this organization, this enterprise wants, they want to meet a need, as an example. They want to implement a change. They want to, maybe they have identified an opportunity which they want to explore, okay? And then what is a need? Business problems that require solving. So as a BA, you are a problem solver. Just have that as a back of your mind. If you are here and you're thinking, what are the key essentials in terms of skills or skill set that I would need? A business analyst is a problem solver. So you are in and you're like, okay, this is a problem. How do we solve it? How do we go about, finding a solution? Remember that again, coming into bear. A solution, what is that? It could actually come in form of products, services that provides a way to take advantage of an opportunity to satisfy the need. So yes, going back, the business has a need. They're trying to, look for a solution to solve that problem. And you as a BA, that is what you help the business to accomplish or to achieve. Stakeholders, all of us know what it is. Individuals, groups, that have a need or are interested in that solution or will be affected by that solution eventually. That is what your stakeholder. I talked about value benefits. What is it going to do for me? What's in it for me? if I put it in very simple terms. That is what it is. And then, of course, it has to be within the context, either of the organization, the culture, or it could be, any of these things. So essentially, you as a business analyst, you're the one that, first of all, gets into the business, the head of that business owner, as an example, to help them define the need that they have. And the next step is, okay, let's explore solutions in the market. And you recommend that to the business. And these solutions, of course, their ultimate goal is that these solutions will meet the business need at the end of the day, so that what you are developing in form of that solution will be meeting a need. It will be fit for purpose. So as a BA, that is, in a very, very simple term, what you will be really focusing on. Now, this slide talks about, let's break it down, the role of a business analyst. It is quite, it's there. Your advisory, remember I said you're not going to go, you're not delivering the solution per se. You will be part of, that development team, or the group that actually delivers this need or meets this need for the business. So you are functioning in an advisory role, okay? And what are the steps that you would do? First of all, you try to define the needs, and there are different techniques. There are industry standard techniques. So one thing I always say is nobody will expect you to go into the air and manufacture anything. There's nothing new under the sun, if I may put it that way. So if you're saying, okay, if I get on a job today, will I know what to do? How do I help this business to define the need? There are techniques. There are industry standard techniques that will help you to do the job. So nobody's expecting that you make anything up. So even when you are going through that investigation, trying to understand that business goal or that business need, there are different methodologies, there are different techniques that, of course, are proven, through time. And these are techniques that you will use, that you will adopt in carrying out business analysis. So a business analyst could either be a hybrid, a specialist, or a generalist practitioner. Now, I normally will say that when you're starting out, you can start out as a generalist business analyst, and essentially you perform business analysis activities across, using different techniques and initiatives across varying scopes. So it's not like you are only focusing on, because over time, as business analysts, develop themselves, they begin to find a niche for themselves. You might now find technical business analysts, or even business analysts who are very business oriented. So they are more, okay, working to help the business to write a business case, and maybe enabling, probably they might be involved in the change management side of things and not so technical. But when you start out as a generalist, you're just across doing pretty much almost everything, but then as you now develop, you now find out that, oh, actually, I like the more technical side of business analysis, and you find yourself that, okay, maybe that's where you kind of, you lean towards. But then there are some people that are like, oh, I don't like the technical bit, but there are different ways that you can start. So, or you can be a hybrid. So sometimes you find people saying, oh, I'm a hybrid business analyst. So you do a bit of the technical bit, and then the not so technical bit. Or you find yourself maybe even as a project manager. These days, you find when we talk about hybrid, you might be somebody who is maybe not your business analyst, but you also have project management skills because you've developed that over time. Now, in Sterling, something we always encourage, that don't be one-track minded. Don't come on the program and say, oh, I'm only interested in business analysis, and therefore you're not even opening yourself to develop project management skills or even PMO or project support skills, as it were. But you want to make sure that you are picking up as much, so you've got that capability, and you're not just saying, if it's not business analysis, I'm not looking. Because trust me, today, the businesses, organizations are looking for two for the price of one. So they want somebody who is a BA, but you also have, the project management skill set, or you are able to wear both hats. So that's another area. Or then you might just have some very specialist BAs. But usually when you start out, you can just be a generalist. You open yourself to doing different projects, being, across different domains, just picking up the skills and developing yourself. And then over time, you can decide, oh, I want to be specialist, or maybe you go hybrid, okay? So one of the skills of a business analyst, I'm just going to go through now. Please, this is just a taster, okay? And the expectation is that you go away. If you haven't heard this before, go away and do further study. We're not going to do 2.5 sessions and expect that you have everything you need. So this is just to, kind of get you thinking. So as a business analyst, communication is very essential. A BA, if you're somebody who doesn't like people, you better just think again. Maybe not. Let me rephrase that. If you're somebody who doesn't like to work with people, maybe you like to be behind the screen. So Gbenga just talked about becoming a software developer. So a lot of developers don't like to be troubled. They just want to be writing their code in peace, and they don't like to have these meetings where they have to engage with stakeholders, and all of that. So if you're that kind of a person who wants to just be behind the screen learning to write code, maybe you listen to what Gbenga is saying, or you go towards that path. But if you want to become a business analyst, you've got to be somebody who's ready to engage, because you'll be engaging the business, you'll be engaging development or technical teams on a day-to-day basis. So communication is very essential as a business analyst, or if you are looking to get into business analysis. People skills is very important. Critical thinking, research. I always say in the academy, research should be at your fingertips. So you get onto a job tomorrow and you see something that you're not familiar with, and you're like, okay, I don't know, my dear, get online and go and Google. I say to them, Google is your friend. Google it. I remember when I first started as a business analyst, my very, very first, I worked for Nottingham Trent Uni in their IT department. I was IT business analyst, and there were so many things. I would go into those meetings, but my notepad was my friend. So I will make notes. I will write. I'm like, okay, I've not heard this before. On my way home, if I'm taking a train or something, I'm researching. I am finding out. So if you're somebody that enjoys going online to find out, oh, where do I get the best deals? You research and you enjoy that. That might be something that you already have. So research is very important. Remember the definition of business analysis, where I talked about you as a BA. One of the things that you would do, you will be recommending solutions. And how do you recommend? You would have done your homework. It's by going online to find what is out there that can meet this business need. It could be, okay, maybe a CRM software, CRM solution or something. It could just be anything, but you've got to be somebody who's ready to research, and then you can present the findings of your research to the business to help them make an informed decision. So research skills, very essential, and negotiation. That is so important. And you might wonder, oh, what is that? Now, as a business analyst, like I said, you're going to be engaging different stakeholders, whether on the side of the business or maybe development teams, or suppliers. And so as a BA, a lot of times you would have to learn, you would have to be negotiating, in a sense that sometimes when you're recommending, you're recommending these solutions, so the business may push back sometimes, or maybe suppliers external to maybe suppliers that you're working with and all of that. You have got to find a way to negotiate, and it just means making them, getting their buy-in, making them see why that solution is what they should be considering. So that is that negotiating back and forth. You have to find a way to sell what you're recommending to them. So you're not prescribing and saying you must, but you want to help them to make an informed decision, and a lot of negotiation will be involved. So these are things that a BA will be doing on a day-to-day basis. And I would like you to start thinking about it. Are these sort of things that I will enjoy doing every day? And if not, then maybe you need to start looking elsewhere. So I like to highlight all of this is because at this point, you begin to tell yourself, This can come to me naturally. I love working with people. I know how to negotiate. I know I'm an excellent communicator. You're already ticking the box. Now, when we normally do the skills gap, exercise which I mentioned, these are the things that I say, start ticking them. So you know that you already have the skills. Some of them are just natural to you. And therefore, it means you're not starting from the scratch. You've got something to start with. Now, let's talk about business analysis approach. Now, like I said, everything that I'm talking about has industry standard techniques, methodologies, and all the things that will guide you, tools of the trade, they are there. So as a business analyst, it's important that whilst you can leverage these other soft skills and transferable skills that we've talked about, you still need to understand the body of the body of knowledge, as it were. So you need to understand there are business analysis terminologies that you need to be familiar with in order for you to even do the job. So yes, you have this excellent, all these other skills I've mentioned. So the technical bits are just, okay, what is the industry standard on how to investigate a situation, as an example? What are the tools that I will need? What are the techniques that will help me to investigate a situation? So these are still essential. So people say, oh, I have all these skills already. Can I start applying for BA jobs? And I say, no, because you need to be familiar with the terminologies. You need to understand the body of knowledge. You need to have a good understanding of business analysis body of knowledge. There are terms, there are, terminologies that you would need to be familiar with because you need them to do the job. And so you need to get on a training to help you pick this up, as you go along. So the business analysis process model is very essential as you're trying to understand. And if I were you, I will make notes so I can go and do some further study. I think there are people waiting. Trevor, I hope he's still on here. Sorry, let me just admit them. Oh, nobody, sorry. Okay. So let's look at how, and of course, this is the overarching business strategy and objectives. We talked about the fact that the business will have a need, an opportunity that they've identified, business objectives, and then the BA is the one that helps them to define the need, recommend solutions and help them to actually, add the solutions to meet the needs, which of course will be value adding. I'm just paraphrasing the IBA definition there. So that is the overarching element. But then look at these steps. Now, how do you start? Where does he start from? What is the initiation element of business analysis? Now you start from investigating the situation. If you don't understand that business situation, it'll be hard for you to recommend, because you've got to know what it is, what the problem is. What is the problem statement? Like I say, if it's not broke, don't fix it. So what is broken? And how do you get to that point is where you call the investigation stage. Okay, and there are different techniques, like I said, that will help you to carry out this particular step. One, there are different techniques. This one is just rich pictures, mind maps. These are just, you can read more about it as you go along. There are industry standard techniques. Now, you use these techniques to help, to get an understanding of that business need or that business goal or that situation or that problem statement that the business is trying to solve, or that problem or that need that the business is trying to solve. So you go in, you explore, sorry. I wonder if Trevor is still on the call. This is very distracting, sorry. It just keeps saying people are waiting. Okay, so you use these techniques, to investigate the situation. I'm going to, in another slide, we'll break it down in a minute. So you have to, first of all, try to investigate the situation. And then
popular debates. We will see it.
And then you consider perspectives. So stakeholder analysis, stakeholder perspectives, stakeholders, people, of course, that will be affected by, that solution or that have an impact, so the stakeholders could be internal stakeholders, external stakeholders, there could be regulatory bodies, it just depends on the actual context or the project that you're working on. So you need to look at different perspectives. Now, for example, maybe you're working on a project where the sponsor has come from the finance department. So maybe it's a finance system that they're trying to improve on. So the finance department, maybe the head of finance could be a stakeholder, and even the people that work in finance, the people that will use the system are stakeholders. So when you are going through this business analysis step or stages, you will look at different perspectives as well, as you are, because you can't just build or you can't recommend in isolation. You've got to factor, technology, people, and different processes as you go. I'm trying not to be technical. I'm just trying to keep it as simple as possible, but these perspectives will need to be considered as you're going through. And then you look at analyzing the needs. Now, like I would always, I'm also going to emphasize, there are techniques. There are industry standard techniques that will help you. So one here is your business process modeling. Don't worry if it's like, what is that? As you go along, you understand. That is one very essential element. Now, that was something, if you go through the history of where business analysis started from, we covered that in our program with the origin of business analysis. Back in the days, people who would carry out this sort of function were called systems analysts, and they were missing the business analysis or the business process consideration when they were sort of developing solutions and things like that. So but a business analyst will say, you know what, instead of just saying, oh, let's build this solution, let's build this app, let's build this website, we've got to look at the business process, because whatever you're building would have to be supporting a business process. So you're not just building a solution, an app, a website that is standing on its own. Because what they found back in the days where technical teams will build some fancy solution, they find that, okay, they build this software and nobody's using it because they missed out the business process side of things. It's almost as if it's just not fit for purpose. But if you look at the business process, okay, who are the people that are going to use this actual system or this solution, as it were? Like referencing the finance department again, who are the users, who are the end users that will use the system, and what is the end-to-end process? So your business process modeling is very essential when you are carrying out your business analysis study. And there are different ways that you can actually map the business process, understand the business process, understand how the finance team use this particular system or this solution, as it were, that you are trying to recommend. So business process modeling is very essential as you are looking at your needs analysis or your gap analysis. What is a gap analysis? Now you have where the business is today and where the business wants to go tomorrow. Maybe it's an opportunity that the business is, exploring. You start from where they are. Where are we today? Where maybe is, for example, find that finance department. You as a BA, you will go into the finance department, maybe talk to a few people. The investigation that we're talking about, it could be in form of, talking to people one-to-one, or maybe workshop. These are all industry standard techniques as well that, you as a BA would need to know how to use. So as you are trying to analyze the needs, you do what you call a gap analysis. And essentially it's just to say, okay, let's see if we can understand this gap. But how do we do that? We start from where we are and where do we want to get to? So when you want to look at where you are, you go and sit with the finance team. Maybe you ask for one or two of them, the end users of this finance system that we're talking about. Remember, that is the scenario that I'm painting here. So you as a BA, you go and sit down with finance and say, okay, end user, what are your pain points? What is the issue with this finance system that you guys want to improve on? And they will say, oh, at the moment, oh, it's so clunky, it's hard to use, the user interface is this, and, it's slow, and all of those things. And you as a BA, you are making notes. So that is your need definition. Remember, in that IBA definition of business analysis, you're helping them to define the needs. So this is it here. You start from where is it? What are the problems? What are the issues? And you're making notes and you're documenting that. That is one. Now you can now say, okay, these are the areas where the users are struggling. So what is your business process? How do you use this system from point A to B? And they will walk you through that. Now, as a BA, you can put that into visual representation. This is where your business process modeling comes in. And there are different tools that you can use. You can use Visio, you can use Lucidchart, you can use Miro, you can use Mural. There's so many tools out there. So nobody will expect you to go and manufacture anything that does not exist. So these are things that you will learn over time. And we have a lot of these tools within the academy, but you can also go and do a lot of free trials. They're out there. Okay. So you are now saying, okay, let's try and map and visualize this business process so we can, and the reason we're doing that is so that you can identify the bottlenecks, you can identify the issues, you can identify the pain points. And at the end of the day, we now say, okay, this is where the problem is. And then how do we fix the problem, which is the to be, which is where we want to get to, or that is ultimately where the business wants to get to. We want a system that works. We want to streamline our existing finance process. We want our finance team to enjoy using that system without complaining. We want a more efficient way. So these are all requirements already, which you as a BA, you are writing down, okay? And then the gap is just, okay, these are the areas, how do we get from point A to point B? And all of this is documented. Maybe you start by putting it on just a simple Word document, Excel, or any of these visual tools that I've mentioned. Then you play it back to the business to say, okay, this is my understanding of what you're saying the problem statement is. Can you validate? So validation is also very important as you go through your business analysis study. And then we look at evaluate options. So you've analyzed the needs, you've done your gap analysis, you've been able to identify where the problem is and where the business goes, what does the business want to get to? And then you now say, okay, how do we get there? What are the options that will help us to meet this need? Then the big one is now you define the requirements, okay? Now we talked about documenting what you understand the business, the problem statement to be, where the pain points are. You do all of that. And then we now say, okay, let's go fix it. Let's solve this problem. So as a BA, you help to start defining these requirements. Now here, I've tried to pick one. So remember we talk about investigation being one of the tools or techniques that you can use to understand the business situation. So you as a BA, you are like an investigator, really. Those of us who like to watch sci-fi and all of these movies, you have an investigator and they're going to talk to people to find out, okay, where did the problem start from? Who killed the person? Who was, where's the evidence? It's still that same technique right there, okay? But like I said, there are industry standard techniques that you can use. Investigation could be qualitative or quantitative. And this is a breakdown of, what this means. At the end of the day, you are trying to understand what is needed. And you could either you can go through interviews. Interviews just mean talking one-to-one with that finance team member to say, okay, I'm going to sit with you to see how you're using this finance system, just to see how clunky you say it's clunky. What does that mean? You're asking them those questions, or you could actually come to the quantitative side and send a questionnaire. Okay, especially if you just want to be able to pull data together. So BA, this is your toolkit. A few of these things here: interviews, observation, shadowing. So you sit down, look at the finance team member that has been assigned to you to help you to, try to investigate and gather your requirements. Or you could use workshops. And if, for example, you want to bring different stakeholders into the room at the same time to consider their perspectives. Remember the business analysis model? consider stakeholder perspectives. Sometimes you might need to bring people into a workshop setting so that you can then, okay, let's hear your perspective, finance, head of finance. Let's hear your perspective, you end user of the finance system. Let's hear your perspective, IT, and all of these people. If you want to bring all of these people into a room at the same time, especially again, if there's, you don't have the time to talk to people one-on-one, it'll make sense to do workshops. So depending on the scenario, the situation, the context where you find yourself, you can decide which of these techniques to use. Focus groups might just be a few users, maybe end users. It might be maybe an app, or even the same finance system, and you now want to put a focus group together. That is another technique that you can use. Prototyping, maybe you want to use high fidelity wireframes, low fidelity wireframes. Now it's just to say, okay, still trying to investigate. Let me backtrack a little bit. My very first BA interview, I was asked to put a presentation together, and the brief was, can you explain how prototyping can be used to document and validate requirements? And that was my brief. And I had to put a presentation together, and I now used wireframes. So some of you would have been familiar, would have heard about that. And I said, okay, wireframe is a low fidelity prototype. And I said that let's use this example of the finance team system again. Let's say as a business analyst, I wanted to use wireframes, to kind of let them or to tease out the requirements. So I go to the finance team and I say, okay, as you're talking me through that end-to-end process, I can now just do a wireframe of maybe that system currently, and say, okay, how is the system today, the as is, and where are the bottlenecks, where are the issues? So it's just a visual representation, really. And then I could say, this is my understanding of what you have just told me. And I just put it in form of a diagram or maybe a prototype. And then and this is what I'm recommending. So you could say, oh no, we want this system to maybe the interface, that's the user interface, the screen that you see, maybe it can be improved on, and all of these things. And this is you engaging users, and they are telling you the requirements. Then you are documenting, and you go back and say, okay, this is what you said. Is this correct? So there's a lot of back and forth. So in this instance, I put together, I think it was a mobile app. So I just said at the beginning, I will start, I just will maybe do a wireframe of how the app is today, and then what I think the business wants the app to look like in the future. And then I present it to the business. They can say, can we move this button from here and there? So your visual, like they say, picture speaks 1,000 words. So my opening statement on my brief was, I had a cartoon character, and I said, picture speaks 1,000 words. And that's why I think prototyping really helps to tease out requirements and to validate, requirements. And I can't remember how, I'm just paraphrasing now. So prototypes is just visual, make it, trying to put a visual representation of what it is you're trying to investigate. And then you present it to the business, and they can look at it and say, okay, let's move things here and there. And that will now form your requirements catalog or your requirement list. So investigation is just talking to people, talking to users, having workshops, having an understanding of the what the business is trying to achieve, and all of that. And then also questionnaires. So let's say, for example, you have remote teams all over the world, and you have a lot of people that you want to gain data from. You want all that information. You could just design a questionnaire and send it out so people respond. You build very simple Google Forms, and you ask the questions, you send it out. You could use mind maps. These are just industry standard techniques that the BA would typically use. Now, I want to 7. Okay, let's talk about a day in the life of a business analyst. Now, what we normally would do at this point is to go through one example of a project behind the scenes. Within the academy, of course, we have several projects. I'm just conscious of time now. Maybe I'll go into, I'll just pick one of our projects as an example and then try to see, okay, how does a BA plug into the development of this solution as an example, and because like I said, the BA never operates or functions in isolation. The BA will be part of the development team, which could be made up of a project manager, maybe a developer, maybe the software developer like Gbenga already mentioned. You could have testers, it just depends on, where you find yourself in terms of what the organization has, because sometimes you find yourself in a small organization and these functions are not that clear cut. You might find yourself actually being, in fact, my very first job as a business analyst, I was thrown into testing, because it was all hands. And so they were like, have you tested before? I was like, I'm happy to learn, So that's why I'm very big on being open to learn as many skills as you can. Let your scope be broad because you just never know where you find yourself. So what I'm going to do right now, I will just do a quick, I'll stop sharing and I'll go straight into, one of our projects, and I'll try and just show you a few things. So probably from how the BA starts, in case, and please drop your questions in, we'll cover them. How the BA starts from the initiation stage to closure of a project. The business analyst, of course, functions within, let's use a project as an example, and a project is an endeavor that has a start and an end, okay? And so, for example, we talked about the business objective, we talked about a problem statement, we talked about a need that the business is trying to meet, and that would then be the trigger for initiating a project. So you as a business analyst, as an example, we have the website revamp. We just had one of our groups kind of finish that project. We were revamping our website. We also had a CRM implementation. CRM is just customer relationship management because we need that for our business, okay? So as an example, you get the job today. Where do you start from? So what I want to do is I will show you quickly to say, okay, you start from the initiation where you are supporting the project manager. In case you're saying, I think we get that question, how do BAs and PMs work? A BA, of course, and PMs, they work quite closely, okay? Because you can't sit down in isolation and say, oh, I'm a business analyst, I'm just defining the requirements. Project manager is facilitating. Project manager is the one that probably will have a plan or, have the high level scope, will have to help to define it and all of that, and you work together. So within a project, how do you plug in, to actually initiate and deliver successfully that project? So I will stop my screen, stop sharing this slide. I'll go straight into, we have a tool that we use for our projects, Confluence. So as a BA, in case you're here and you're like, okay, what are the tools? What do I need to start picking up? What are the skills I need to start learning? Now, trust me, to get your first job, you don't need to know everything. Like I said, I didn't know everything when I started. I would go for meetings and a lot of things be flying over my head, but you shouldn't let that phase you because a lot of things you'll still learn on the job. But then there are fundamentals that you need in order for you to get through and get your first job, and the rest of it, you learn as you go. So I'm going to stop sharing. Actually, let's probably take a 5 minutes water break, if that's okay. I'll stop sharing my screen now so that I can log into Confluence and I'll pick either the CRM or the website project, and I'll just walk you from step by step how the BA plugs in, what are the BA deliverables, what are the key activities that the business analyst will be responsible for within a project, so that you can have that perspective and you can begin to visualize how that plugs in. Okay, so I will stop now, and please, any questions, drop it in the chat, okay? Okay, we'll come back at 7, while I should have logged into Confluence now. So please drop your questions. No question is silly. Just drop it in there. I will answer them shortly. Okay, so I hope we are back. Right. I'm gonna start sharing again. So what you will see is known as, where is it? Okay, just a minute. It's just one of the tools that we use. We have different tools within the academy. And this is one that's called Confluence, also very popular. Most organizations use Confluence, they use Jira. These are just things you can write down and go and do your further research to understand how they're used. I think you can get free trials, especially if you're going to you're trying to learn this thing by yourself. If you just feel like, okay, I'm not ready to join any program, but I want to learn a lot of things that I know. When I started, I was self-taught. I had to learn a lot of these tools by myself, and you can do that as well. So just make notes of them. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen shortly. And I'm just going to be, let me know if you can see my screen. Just type, just type yes in the chat, please, or unmute and let me know. Just so I know. Can you see my screen? Can somebody unmute, because I don't want to go to the chat, but is that yes?
Yes,
Yes.
Brilliant.
Yes.
Good stuff. Thank you very much for that. Okay, right. So here is Confluence. These are just, you can actually go to Jira, Trello, and all of that. These are just different apps within the Atlassian product. The suite has Jira and different apps in the marketplace. But today I'm just going to, for the purpose of this demonstration, so this is one of our projects. We normally, if you go on here, you will see a lot of projects that we've done over time. As a business analyst, where do you start from? Okay, so documentation, depending on the methodology, for example, I'm not going to go into all of that. I'm sure a lot of you would have heard about Agile, you would have heard about waterfall, you'd have heard even of hybrid and all of that. Everybody these days is talking Agile, but there are different variations. People have just done all sorts, with Agile, because I know the Agile evangelists will say, oh, it has to be set in a way and all of that. But trust me, businesses they will adapt. Prince 2 says adapt, make sure it has to be fit for purpose, So most organizations will just, you go to different organizations and you see different versions of Agile and stuff like that. But that is something for you to read about. Now, so this is, some organizations might be like, oh, we are very agile, we're not big on documentation. Maybe if I talk with Gbenga now, he might say, oh, I don't have time to document all of this. I just want to have an understanding. Okay, what are we trying to build? Do we just have high level requirements and we go and stuff like that? that. And then, but there are certain organizations, certain domains, certain type of projects that are very waterfall. So your automotive, health, and a lot of all these what you call them areas, for example, or type of projects would maybe lean towards waterfall, because your waterfall means your requirements have to be completely done, baseline, approved, agreed earlier on. So at the initiation stage, signed off before you go into the next stage. Whereas with Agile, it's more an iterative way. So you analyze, you design, you build, you test different chunks of the requirements. At the end of each sprint, you want a functional, I don't know, a solution as an example, and that could mean a button. Maybe for that sprint, you just want to make sure that you have been able to build and test and go live with just a button on a website. So it's just small, manageable chunks, and the reason why a lot of organizations are embracing Agile is more. It's easier, it's more adaptable. You can make changes easily, and all of that. I'm not going to go into that now, but anyway. So this is one of our CRM. This is a CRM implementation project. This was something that we, as an organization in Sterling, we needed that, and so we initiated the project, of course. So people who joined, who have been with us before, there was a team that worked on this. These guys had no prior knowledge at all, but then, of course, they came on the course and they helped us to deliver this CRM implementation project. So as a business analyst, for example, let's use this. So you start, from this, let me move this here. Yeah. So the BAs are the ones that own they are the ones that are the custodians of this conference space. So you find out that the BA is the one that is, or the product owner. So that's another Agile concept. A product owner, is the one that understands what the business objectives are, working closely maybe with the BA. You might go to a different organization and see how product owners are working, and might be different to what the textbook says. So you can't be just held on to say, textbook says this, and so it has to be that way. So you've got to, look at how the organization has decided to adapt this whole framework, as it were. So the BA, as an example, this is where you're putting the brief. The project brief is just, okay, high level brief, as it says, understanding of what the business goals are, the business objectives, for example, the business mandate or project mandate. So here, for us, we normally will guide our users or our interns so they know how to complete any of these templates, as an example. So you are working very closely with the project manager to say, okay, what is the brief? What is this brief? And within your brief, one, you will have the project scope. You will have things like what are the high level requirements? Maybe it could be business goals, very high level. You have maybe some assumptions that you are making and some risks that have been identified, and all of these things. Brief summary will be in your project brief. Or Agile these days, they're calling it vision document. So that is another thing. So, but that is your deliverable, your first deliverable as a business analyst, which you will be working on. And a lot of times you and the PM will work together to come up with that document. Okay. So this is where, the BA works. So for us, we have the project vision document, and it's just a, high level. I don't want to go into all of that now. You can click on that. And so if you're thinking, where does the BA start from? It is at the project brief stage, okay? Or sometimes, or some organizations will call it, can you not click on the, just look at it, don't click on it, please. Because you won't be able to click on it. You can only see the screen, okay? Yeah, so some organizations may say, okay, you start with what you call a project charter, okay? And you might say, what is the difference and all of that. So depending on where you find yourself, a lot of organizations that are what do you call it, very waterfall, and they are big on heavy documentation. They will say business case, project charter. Sometimes these things are used interchangeably. So depending on where you find yourself, I've worked in places where, like right now, we're talking project charter. When a project is initiated and the project has been approved, there's budget for it, we go and we start with the project charter. Whereas in other places I've worked in, we do the brief and proposal stage. So it just depends really. But as a business analyst, you work with a project manager to come up with that, to say, and essentially it is just what are the key, what is our understanding of what the business is trying to achieve here? What are the high level business objectives? What are the goals? What are the requirements? High level, brief at that stage. So you will be working on that with the PM to come, and that's your first deliverable. And of course, that is presented to the business. They look at it and say, okay, yes, we understand. We are happy with your understanding of the problem statement, of our business goals and stuff like that. So BA, that is one thing. And then you move to, I'm just going to break this. And these things could vary, like I said, depending on domain, depending on organization, depending on frameworks and methodology. And there's a lot that, what would determine, but on maybe on a very high level industry standard, these are just very big. These are standardized approaches really. So the planning. So you've done your vision document, which is very brief, and you move on to the next stage. Let's start planning. Let's start breaking this down. Let's start fleshing these high level requirements, which we captured at the project brief stage. Let's start, breaking it down. And that investigation I talked about, all that talking with the finance team, understanding where the pain points are, you could, this is now forming. You're bringing that in, maybe not quite there yet, but then the planning stage, the PM owns that. The PM is the one that owns the project plan or the project schedule, for example. So the PM will now say, okay, what are the activities that this project will be focusing on? So they would have a plan. And there are different tools. I'm not going to go there. We have monday.com. We use monday.com. There is MS Project. That's Microsoft Project. There are several tools. People can even use Excel. Excel is becoming very popular these days. I know somebody that by the time he plans in Excel, you just be like, how did you come up with this? So, it's just, but trust me, you don't have to know all of these things just yet. Just get the basic fundamentals. Be able to use Excel at beginner level. That's okay. You don't have to be an expert using Conference just yet, but at least you can navigate, know your way around. Okay, so we move to planning. And so you see here that at the planning stage, reporting, these are all your PMO, project management, these, all of this. We document everything here, by the way, okay? We have other repositories that we have stuff, but we want this to be the single source of truth. So the BA works with the PM to say, okay, because the planning, the PM, even though the PM owns that deliverable, as an example, the PM will work with different members of the team to say, BA, what are your activities? What are your deliverables? What are you going to be focusing on at different stages of this project life cycle? Okay, and as the PM is working, the BA will say, okay, right now we are doing requirements documentation or requirements analysis, or I'm carrying out gap analysis. You're breaking that down, and the PM is documenting that. So you see that the PM and the BA work together, okay? And at the end of the day, that deliverable, of course, maybe the person who owns that will be the PM. He now presents that to the business to say, okay, this is how it's looking. These are things I'm going to focus on and all of that. So you as a BA, you're working closely with the PM, okay? So you see here within the planning stage, because it's important that the PM captures these key activities, right? So things like, if, for example, the BA wants to, remember I talked about gap analysis. Gap analysis is identifying where you are today. Where is the business, the as is? How are you? What is the issue? What is the pain point? What is the finance department struggling with? That system, what is it, and stuff like that. So BA, you are now, as you are sitting with the stakeholders and investigating the situation, remember I said there are industry techniques that you can use. Now, this is one example here. I think this is a process map. I don't know if I can click on one. And like I said, all of these things you learn over time. None of these things will be, you know, you don't go and manufacture anything from thin air. There are tools that you can use here. So this is just an example of just, I think, one of the process maps. Please mute yourself. You mute yourself. Trevor, can you mute everybody, please? Okay. So okay. Thanks. Right. So this is, sorry, I need to mute that. It's very, thanks for that. Okay. So yeah, going back. So you as a BA, I was talking about having a visual representation of what it is you're working on. So this is, you know, just one of for example, a use case model. I'm trying not to be technical so you don't start getting scared. I think maybe this is just something one of the trainees worked on. Now you have access to these tools. We have a practice space which you would name, and as we're taking you through, you go back and you know you produce these models. Now these are just things these are just also techniques and tools that will help you to do your job, that will help you to try to visualize what you think the business is trying to communicate to you. You are articulating this in a visual or using a visual representation. This is just a use case model. I'm not going to go into that. When you come onto the program, we go into all of that detail. But as a business analyst, there are various models, there are various techniques, there are various tools that you will be using is it not going back? Sorry. Okay, to kind of, you know, help you to understand your requirement and to document your requirements. So that is, and there's so many, what do you call it? So many artifacts, as it were, just depending on the stage. Because we don't have a lot of time, I'm just going to go. So you've got your design, build, and release, which is stage 3. At that point, you're now talking with developers. You are now saying, okay, especially if you're using Agile, we want to start building, something that we can see, we can test, we can go live with. Agile talks about Scrum, daily stand-ups, all of that. I'm not going to go into all of that because it's all technical, but all of that is captured here. I talked about low fidelity wireframes. That is another way that you can visualize what it is the business is trying to tell you, and you can represent it, or you can just, present it in a visual representation. For example, this is just a form online, a web form, which we're trying to, I think this was supposed to be on the website. I just picked this up. Actually, the CRM implementation, this is just one of it. So as a business analyst, you are doing wireframes, you are doing business process models, you are coming up with use case models, use case diagrams. Just depends on what it is that you're working on, what tools are available, what you think will communicate that which you're trying to pass on to the business. So, and then you can decide which of these techniques, which of these tools, which of these models to use. So BA, if you are interested in getting into business analysis, you will at least learn, basics. You don't have to be an expert per se. Most of these people didn't know it, but by the time they finished the course, they were able to wireframe, they were able to do business process models. So these are just very key elements which you can learn before getting the job. And then by the time you get the job, you start developing yourself and you'll be a pro, you'll be a master and all of that. So BA, from the brief and proposal stage, you get into planning, you get into design, build, and release. At this stage, you're working, you're communicating, you're engaging with developers. Remember, I said the BA has to be somebody who doesn't mind communicating, engaging with technical teams, engaging with the business, as you're validating these requirements back and forth, the business tell you that this is what we want to build. The developer says, oh, and then you communicate. So BA, you are in between that development team and the business, and you should be able to speak the language of the business when you're talking to the business and get at least a high level understanding of technical, maybe not, I'm not talking about coding, I'm not talking about programming now, but being able to say, okay, developer, we are working on this CRM project and we want to build a user interface where we can capture people's information, and we want this to be integrated with another application, blah, blah. So how do you communicate this? So sometimes you might need to put this in a visual form, and then you communicate it to the technical, to the developer, or you write what you call user stories. So these are also requirements. This is all agile. So these are things that you need to go and read more about so that it's all not flying over your head. So you now will say, okay, developer says, can you send me what is this requirement? You say, okay, I'll write user stories. I will draw wireframes so that the developer sees it and says, okay, I understand what it is we want to build. And then the developer builds it. And then you now say, he says, okay, it's now good. He does a demo, you test, you go live, and that's the agile, iteration. It just goes in a side in that iterative, what do you call it, sequence until the entire project completes or is finalized or is successfully implemented. So BA, you are engaging with PM and BA, you are planning, you are looking at the project activities. The BA will be able to articulate and let the PM know what the BA will be focusing on. What are your BA activities? What are your deliverables at different stages? And all of that will be captured within that schedule or that plan that will then run through from beginning to the closure of the project. So business analyst, you are between the the business development team, you are constantly engaging with different stakeholders to be able to help the successful delivery of that project. So implementation, BA, so BA, you are involved from beginning to the end. Gone are those days which of course is very, even though they say it's traditional waterfall model where the BA would just be in isolation and doing their own requirements, or maybe then was systems analyst. So they're not talking very much with PM. So PM is doing their own bit. So that silo way of working is old school. Now, that's why everybody's adopting Agile. There's the whole three amigo where you have BA, tester, you guys are communicating, you're collaborating, because that way it makes it easier, for you to be able to deliver a working solution without the tester saying, I don't understand what you have written, BA. I don't understand this user story. So there is a lot of communication.
It doesn't have to be too much.
Themselves. So yeah, I'm conscious of time. So the BA, you are the glue that holds it all together. So you are the heavy lifter. You are just helping the business to define the requirements, to look at solutions, to work with the development team to actually successfully deliver. So if you're a business, and if you're somebody and you're trying to think about, does business analyst fit my personality or something that I'm interested in, you've got to think about engaging people, talking with technical teams, talking with the business, being on calls, being on meetings, doing, writing, documenting, drawing, and all of that. So, but you don't have to be an expert, at the beginning. Just have the core fundamentals, get the job, and a lot of it you learn as you go. So BA is involved in a project, even at the testing. So you have what you call UAT. It just means user acceptance testing. Now, I talked about the fact that, okay, the BA works with the PM at the initiation stage and the planning, and then design, build, and release, you're working with the developer. And then as that thing is being built, even let's just say a website, the developer builds the website and says, okay, I finished the homepage. The BA will be involved in supporting testing. So sometimes, or in fact, most times, you may not be testing. So if you're lucky and you're in an organization that have testers, somebody asked about software testing. So they might have maybe a QA team who are the ones that will write the test scripts. They will execute the test and then bring the BA at the UAT stage. UAT just means user acceptance testing. So essentially the BA is the one that will help them to write the business scenarios as an example so that they can test the end-to-end and all of that. So you might say, okay, are you saying that as a BA, I have to learn how to test? If you can, it will pay you, okay? Because like I said, my very first BA job, I was thrown into testing and I quickly had to learn on the job, okay? So in Sterling, what we do, we get everybody involved. So we don't have a different test team. We have everybody. BAs are writing test scripts. They are executing tests. It's all done. We use Zapier as a tool to execute tests. It could be manual testing. It could be automated, automation, different ways. But if you're lucky and you're in an organization that they have a test team, but you will still be involved as well, because a lot of times the testers may have questions about the requirements that you have written, so there is that collaboration that of course goes on during the course of the project. So it would be good for you to have an understanding of testing, okay, what does it mean? What are test scripts? What is a test strategy? What are the elements that should be covered? What is system testing? What is system integration testing? All of that. I don't want to go too technical, but at least at a high level, it'll be good so that when they are talking, it's not flying over your head. So we in Sterling, we ensure that BAs, PMs, PMOs are involved so that they have that understanding. We have templates where you see how to write test scripts, how to execute a test, and all of that. But in an ideal, but if we use textbook, the time that the BA comes in is UAT. So the BA supports the QA or the testers as they are writing their test scripts. You are now looking at the business scenarios that need to be tested. So a lot of times they might push that to the BA to help them to document those business scenarios because those business scenarios would need to be tested. Remember I said that business process modeling is essential and the BA is the one that says this solution that we're trying to build, how does it support our business process? And so if we use the example of that finance system again, and we're now saying, okay, now we've built this new finance application, we now want to test it. We will have to test how that application is used by the finance team from beginning to end. So you as a BA, you might be the one that will sit with the finance team to say, okay, let's document these scenarios from how you log in to how you pull data, how you manipulate data, and all the finance processes, your maybe what you call it, I don't know, those business AR and all of this finance processes. So you as a business analyst, you'll still be involved in writing down those scenarios so that the QA people would then test those scenarios and check that, okay, as a finance team member, I can log into this new system. I know every stage and there is no bugs, no issues, no defects, and it's working properly. So my point here is BA, you are involved from initiation to closure. So we have what we call the closure stage at this point, because you will now sit down, maybe most times it will be the PM, the PMO who's writing the closure reports. The BA will be involved as well. Sometimes part of that closure or that end stage, the closure stage might involve maybe looking at how you will support transition to BAU. Let me use the example of a finance system again. You have developed this tool, this application. It's a new system. So the users will need to learn how to use this tool. Most times it's the BA that supports that. So the BA might now be expected to come up with a manual, a user manual to, to have screenshots to say how you log in, how you move from here to there. So you see that the BA plugs in from the initiation to the closure of the project life cycle. And you might now be the one that will now support, let's say, implementation. There might be a support team, a technical team, but you will still be there supporting the business users, because trust me, you wrote the requirements from the beginning. So if there are any questions, they will call on you to say, okay, can we trace this requirement? Has it met the need? Is it meeting what the business objective and all of that? So you see how the BA plugs in from the initiation to the closure of a project, working closely across functions, or working in collaboration with a project manager, with PMO, with a developer, with a business, and the list goes on. So BA, you are going to be doing a lot of heavy lifting. That is why it's important that communication, you have excellent communication skills, whether you are documenting, whether you are writing, whether you are presenting or negotiating or engaging business stakeholders. Communication is very essential. That is just something here. So I can't, because of time, go into all of that, but I just wanted to just point here how the BA plugs in throughout the life cycle of a project. So I'm going to pause, catch my breath. If you have any questions, pop it in the chat, and I will stop sharing this for now, and see how we are looking. Right, we have an hour. We haven't touched privacy. Okay, if there are any, okay, please put your questions in the chat, and I'll go back to the presentation. Any questions at all, please put it in here, and I will attend to it shortly. Okay, so that is just one tool. So please write down Confluence, Jira, wireframes. If you haven't heard of any of this before, write them down. Go onto Google, start searching. Go onto YouTube, and try to understand. So that's the day in the life of a business analyst. You work across functional teams. You are very involved from the initiation of a project to the end of a project, and you've got to be big on excellent. You've got to have excellent communication skills as well. You don't have to be technical in the sense that you don't have to start worrying about writing programming, learning programming languages, writing code and all of that. No, but the soft skills are very essential, which I mentioned. But like I also mentioned, the business analysis body of knowledge is very important that you understand, and that's why you would need to be trained to know what business analysis is about. What are the concepts? What are these techniques that I've been mentioning at a high level, even if that's all you need at the beginning of your journey. Okay, so I will go back to the presentation and I shall carry on. So let me know if you have any questions at all. Just put it in the chat. I'll come back to it shortly. I'm just gonna. Okay, so this is where I stopped. Bear with me a second. Okay. Type in the chat if you can see my screen. Okay, so now I've just talked about. Oh, sorry. Let me know if you can see my screen. Just type in the chat. Okay, or unmute. Someone just unmute me. Unmute and tell me. So let's look at business analysis opportunities. Okay, which I'm sure a lot of you would have looked at. I don't need to read this stats here. But really and truly, you can start out, either as a permanent BA or contract BA. There are people who have joined the academy without any background in business analysis, and they have started the bold ones because a lot of people are, kind of scared to start, as contractors, because as a contractor, you are expected to hit the ground running. And so you've got to know your onions, really. But if you're bold and you want to, please, by all means. I think I started out I did my fixed term contract, and then moved on contracting for a good number of years before I went permanent. So you can either be permanent or contracts, and average 40, 50K is going up now. Market is getting better. Or you can start contract 350 to 450 per day, depending on your demonstrable skills, which could, of course, include transferable skills that were already mentioned. Now, because of time, we won't be able to go through this, but I want you guys, I want people to talk. Normally, these sessions we have time to talk. So let me just quickly talk about this, and I would like you to unmute yourself and just tell me. I was going to kind of stall, but this is a scenario which I'd like you to get involved.
Veronica, your screen is not showing, please.
Oh, right. Thank you for saying that. And everyone was mute. Okay, just a minute. Okay, I think I'm on the wrong screen. Let me close this. Bear with me a second. All right. Sorry, I'm going to stop sharing again. Canva is misbehaving. Oh, you mean I've been talking to myself all this while and nobody said anything? Okay. Oh, sorry. I'm just saying, one of my questions is, does the training provide you the tools to use when you're being assigned a project? Yeah, I think we already mentioned that. Yes, your screen is no longer showing. Okay. Guarantee one will get a job, even if it's entry-level role after program. That we can't guarantee you, because you've got to interview. So we will help you to prepare for the interview. You go through the projects, to pick up the skills. But at the end of the day, we don't place you in a role. You will still need to interview to get the job. So we will not give you guarantees, because you still need to be able to prove yourself. Okay. So let me go back to sharing again. Hopefully it works this time. So we're not going to take this comfort break. I was because of time. Okay. Can you see now? Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So this was what I was talking about. But because of time, so most businesses are not aware that they already have. This is just a scenario, okay? It's really around how the BA, we talked about the business analysis, a business analyst, and how you plug in from the initiation to the closure of a project. We talked about the definition of business analysis, how you go in, understand the business, investigate the business situation, help them to define the needs, recommend solutions, and help to actually deliver or support the delivery of this solution to ensure that value is being added to the business. Okay, so I would have said here, as a BA, how would you plug into this context? First of all, the scenario is that businesses are not aware that they already have vast level of data within the organization, but this data is often inaccessible, inadequate, or simply unexploited. But then this business is saying, okay, we want to try and utilize the data, because of course data, the whole idea about doing data analysis is so that
Excuse me, Veronica, sorry. The screen is not showing again.
Again. That's true.
Yes, it's paused.
Still.
Yes. You have the presenter window there. Let's take a comfortable break, 10 minutes. That's what you have on the screen now.
Still, thank you, Tolu. Right, okay, guys, let's stop sharing and sorry about this. And everybody's quiet. Okay, let me know if you can see this one.
Yes.
Okay, I'm not sure why I'm doing that today. Okay, so this one is just a scenario which I think I was already talked about. So for example, if you as a business analyst, you were asked to join this project or join this organization, how would you plug in? Or what would you be doing in this context? In the sense that, yes, the business knows that they have data all over the organization across their ecosystem, but they want to be able to utilize this data in order to generate insights that would help them to make informed decision. Say, for example, that's you as a BA, you were thrown into this project, and where do you start from? So I know I've put things there, but I want to see if you guys are following. Can anybody just, in their own words, don't talk about, what's on here. So how would you, what was the first thing that you would do if anybody wants to talk about, that model that we talked about? Although I've already put here, gather requirements. But before you gather requirements, what is the first thing? Based on that model we looked at, can anybody just talk and tell me what's the first thing, or what is the first thing that they will focus on? What will help you to even gather these requirements? Anybody who wants to talk, unmute yourself and just talk. Let me see if you're following. If you can go back to that initial, I don't want to say, but unmute yourself. What will help you to gather the requirements, as an example?
Hi, I think doing your research,
Okay.
having conversations with people in the company.
Okay. So your what would you...
Project brief. I think the project, going through the project brief, you'll be able to gather requirements.
So how do you put the project brief together? What I'm looking for something. Yeah, go on.
Hi, good evening. My name is Tunde.
Hi.
I would say I would need, first thing I would do is to elicit the project requirements with the stakeholders and the team, the board, the stakeholders and the members, and to get to know more of what they really want. Then that way I could document it, and that will help me gather the requirement that I need.
Okay, so as you're documenting requirements, what can you think of, one or two techniques that would help you to document the requirements? Use any of the terms. That's what I'm looking for. You've said it in simple language, but just to see.
Focus groups,
interviews,
groups,
workshops.
Okay.
Interviews, yeah.
Okay, that's good. Okay, I see that you're following. That's good. So you document the requirements. So let me ask another question. So you are documenting the requirements. How do you check that what you have written is correct? How would you, what's the step?
I think if after documenting, I will communicate with the stakeholders and get their validation if it's something that they can validate.
Validation is what I was looking for. Okay, so yeah, that's good. Thanks. I just wanted to hear your voices, and I think some people are putting. Let me just see what's in the chat in case people don't want to verify with the stakeholders. Workshop interviews, get it validated. That's brilliant. So I like that word validation, because the reason why a lot of business analysts fail or why they have issues down the line is because you are just in your head and you're like, oh, I understand what the business needs. That constant validation is very essential so that you don't go too far ahead without checking that, okay, what you're capturing is what, the business wants or what it needs and what the requirements are. So constant validation is very important. A good business analyst does that. You're carrying your people along. So requirements gathering is very important, and how you can gather your requirements is going through that investigation stage, understand business situation, and you can do workshops, you can do one-to-one, you can do focus groups, prototyping. I think we've already mentioned all of that. Then you can look at the second step there. We talked about extracting data and map data. So there are different models that you can use to actually, we talked about the visualization. So there are different data models. There's class models, there's, or you can use case models and all of that. Please mute yourself today. And then data cleansing, enriching data, analyzing data. I want to talk about that quickly because This does not mean that every BA role would involve that, because I know that I get questions where people are like, oh, business analysis, must I have an understanding of BI models, that's business intelligence, there are different models and all of that. Must I be a BI expert? Must I learn Python for data analysis and all of that? And the answer is no. Okay, it just depends. So when we're talking about either a specialist business analyst, so you might be a business analyst that is really, you are big on the big data projects. So there are different projects as an example, and there's some BAs that are like, I will only work on big data projects where we're doing a lot of data modeling and all of that, because they've developed the skill over time and they enjoy that. But there is no hard and fast rule. There is nowhere where it says, as a business analyst, you must know how to cleanse or analyze data. It is not a prerequisite. It just depends on where you find yourself. It just depends on the project that you're working on. I think the last time I did data models was my very, very early days, and you don't have to. So don't worry about that. But this one is because of this scenario, because we're trying to analyze data to derive insights that will help the business to do, come up with informed decisions. So as a business analyst in this instance, you may be expected, or you actually might be the BA here, but then you will have SMEs who are data analysts or BI specialists, business intelligence. So people they know Power BI, they know Python and all these other tools that you need for data analysis. So the business analyst doesn't need to know everything. But what you want to do is you need to be able to identify the SMEs that will help your work. So if you're on a project like this, you just say, okay, well, is there going to be a solutions architect or a data analyst that would support this analysis of data or this modeling of data? But the good thing is organizations, of course, are looking for two for the price of one. So if you're a BA and you have this expertise, all the better. But I just wanted to mention that not all BAs have to be data analysts. It is not a prerequisite. It is just an addition. Because of time, we'll move quickly. We're going to take a comfort break for 10 minutes, but we're going to keep going. Okay, so I think that's a BA. That's all we want to cover for business analysis. So what I'm going to do now before we go into privacy, what's the time? Oops. I think we'll take a 5 minutes break, but I'll go and see if there are any questions. I'll take that quickly, and you can get a coffee, tea, water, or anything while I. Yeah. So if anybody has, I'm just going through. Do you revamp CVs? It's part of our. We'll talk about that shortly. One of my question is, does the training provide you? Yes, tools. Yep. Okay. Just trying to go through. Okay. What is the guarantee? Okay, I think we already covered that. Thirdly, does a BA need to know about project life? Of course, you need to know about the project life cycle, because you are supporting that. Like I said, remember when I was showing you that CRM project in Confluence, I said that the project life cycle, the BA is from beginning to the end is involved. So you need to know about it. You need to know, how the various stages. Yeah, CV is part of our it's something we do. Okay, I think that's it. Great. So any BA type questions, please pop it. I'm just gonna get myself a glass of water. My coffee's gone cold, and then we go into privacy. So all the BA questions, keep popping it. We'll take it at the end. You know what? Let's go. So we've got what time? 15, maybe 30, 45 minutes. Okay, let's go into privacy. Okay, quick question really. Are you guys okay to carry on? Because we need to buy us some time. Type yes in the chat if you're okay to carry on, or if you want a 5 minutes break and then we go into privacy. Okay. Okay, let's see what's in the chat. Yes, okay, brilliant. Here for privacy. Yeah, we heard you already. Okay. Just gonna go. Okay, becoming a privacy professional. Very exciting. That is my bread and butter right now. A day in the life of a privacy analyst. Let's start that. My journey into the privacy space as a privacy manager and a consultant. So I've been talking about business analysis, which I love. I could talk about it till tomorrow. I've done BA for a while, but then a few years ago, I decided to just pivot into the privacy space. And my first project was supporting a privacy program for a global luxury travel organization. I got the job after I did 4 months on, I joined a program, I did, some crash course, and I think I spent 4 months just one project, and I applied for a job. A lot of it I learned, just studying, and then my first was a contract role, paying $450 a day for this organization. So I was asked to come in and help them to do what you call a data mapping. So Article 30, I'll talk a little bit about privacy in a minute, and the GDPR. There's something you call Article 30. So it is one of the requirements of the General Data Protection Regulation that says that all data controllers and data processors will be held accountable or should have what you call a record of processing activity. And my first job then was to help that organization to, first of all, carry out their data mapping exercise so that they can fulfill that requirement of Article 30. So I spearheaded the program. Now they were across eight regions of 40 countries, and the focus there was GDPR and CCPA. And my approach was using the IBM approach, which I'll talk about in a minute. And I was able to, successfully help them to get that project going. Even though I started as a contractor on a 3-month project, it was extended, and I spent 5 years with this organization, and I helped them to build their privacy program. And that is why I would say I call myself an expert in that area. I'm very passionate about it. Just want for you to know why privacy professionals are in high demand. This is a question that I got before, and I just wanted to put it there. Of course, people say, is it one area that has long-term potential? Will it be around for a long time? It'll be around forever, trust me, because I'm sure a lot of you are conversant or familiar with all that goes on in the news, how the big tech companies are being, kind of, spotlighted for breach of privacy laws and all the like. So remember Cambridge Analytica a few years ago, and there's so many issues out there. Now, when the whole GDPR, a lot of us in the UK and in the EU will be familiar with the EU GDPR, and everybody was sort of trying to get compliant with that because nobody was sure what was going to happen if you weren't compliant. So some organizations were very quick to really respond, and some others were late to the party. And some others felt like, oh, this is another Y2K, what do you call it, trend, which will fizzle, blah, blah, and they didn't take it seriously until, all the businesses were being, can you see my screen? Is it somebody saying something? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So all of that, this is the reason why it's in high demand, and every day businesses are being penalized, are being fined, and they're now beginning to see that, wow, we have to take this thing seriously. Can I hear something? Yes, okay. We have to take this thing seriously. It's not a matter, it's not a joke. And trust me, the fines are huge, which we'll talk about shortly. And so the reason organizations are beginning to sit up that, okay, we need to comply, okay, and who would help them to comply if it's not privacy professionals? And therefore, it means that according to the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, there you go, out of 194 countries, somebody is really distracting. Please mute yourself, I bet, please. Countries poll 66% have legislation in place, And this is as at, I can't remember how many years ago this was, it has actually increased, it's doubled. So everybody is now coming up with different legislation around privacy, around data protection. And so there will definitely be a high demand for privacy professionals to help businesses to implement or become compliant. Now, how does tech involve data privacy? Some people might say, where does the privacy professional sit? There is that argument, which I'm not even going to go into, because there is, the privacy professional should be strategic, should sit on the business side, or should sit with the tech team and all of that. When I first started, I sat within the tech team because the tech team were the ones that were initiating the whole program and driving the whole program. But at the end of the day, there's different frameworks and models and recommendations. Trevor, can you please mute? There's something really distracting there. I'm not sure where it's coming from. But so this picture just tells you how the privacy professional will work maybe with the cyber team. Somebody in a comment last week on IG, somebody was like, when they saw one of our posts where we were kind of just highlighting the roles and responsibilities of a privacy professional, and they said, oh, is that not what the cyber team does? And I said, well, the cyber security team, they, of course, are looking at the security of the infrastructure, which of course would involve where the data database or the data, what do you call them, databases or repositories where they end or where they sit. So the security element, of course, is where the security team will be. But in terms of how privacy or data protection should be handled, it is still the privacy professionals that will tell you, how it impacts on the business based on where that business operates, where their jurisdictions lie, where their customers are located, where the data is flowing from, where the data is flowing to, and all of those things. So not all cybersecurity experts will have an understanding of legal framework when it comes to privacy, legal requirements, or privacy laws and all of those things. And so you find that these two people or these two functions can work together. But the privacy professional is the one that will tell you, this is what the privacy law, what is the GDPR regulation, what is the California Consumer Privacy Act, what is personal information, PIPL for China, and all of those privacy laws. What are those frameworks that you need to think about when you're looking, when you're trying to be compliant and all of that. So the privacy professional is quite niche. Okay, so most cybersecurity experts may not have that. And therefore, the privacy professional will now be the SME. So for instance, where I'm working right now, we have a huge, cybersecurity team. They are looking at the security bits and all of that. But when it comes to privacy, they come to us as the subject matter experts, because we're the ones that will say, okay, the GDPR requirement says X, Y, and Z. If we are operating in China, for example, these are the privacy laws or requirements, as it were. If we are operating, or if we are looking to expand into South Korea, if we are looking to expand into US, what are those laws in the States when it comes to privacy and data protection? So your privacy professional is the one that would work with these teams, and will say, okay, when it comes to data protection, when it comes to privacy, these are the things that we need to factor in. And these will now form the requirements that will support all of these areas, okay? So a privacy professional usually will be the subject matter expert, okay? What are the soft skills that you require? Also, excellent communication, problem solving, analytical skills, able to prioritize and work to tight deadlines. My goodness, that is something that is so, because you'll be pulled here and there, especially if you're supporting a big business that is operating across different countries, and they're trying to say, okay, what is the law? What is the privacy law in Australia? We operate in Australia. We have customers, we have team members across the globe, and we need to think about all these requirements. So you have got to be able to work well also with a team and individual as well, and communication is very essential. Becoming a data privacy analyst, what are the core elements that you need to think about? GDPR core principles are important. Now, the GDPR is just General Data Protection Regulation, for those of you who haven't heard, but I know everybody on the face of this earth would have heard about the GDPR, because then 2018, yes, 25th of May was when it came into effect, and it was like deadline for every business to at least be in a defensible position come 25th of May. And so then you would have received all those emails asking you to consent, to, give your consent for them to, continue to communicate with you. And if you wanted to opt out, blah, blah. So those GDPR core principles are one essential element for anybody that wants to become a privacy analyst. That is where it starts from, because other privacy laws and legislations that you would hear, whether in the US, in Asia, and all APAC, a lot of them are actually either mirroring the GDPR or, taking some core principles of the GDPR. GDPR is one that... Can you mute, please? Please. We're almost done. Yeah, so understanding the core principles of the GDPR is always a good place to start. Data governance will come later, we'll talk about that. Data protection policies and procedures are these are key elements that you would need to get an understanding of if you want to become a privacy analyst. And please, by all means, go and do further study, further research. We can't cover everything, here. Right. So becoming a privacy professional, there are some technical skills and knowledge. The first step you want to do is, like I said, acquire the knowledge of the data protection regulation. So GDPR, CCPA, it comes later. For me, I think I'd done GDPR compliance for 3 years before I picked up CCPA. CCPA is just California Consumer Privacy Act. It's you could call it the GDPR version in the US, okay? Unfortunately, the US doesn't have a federal privacy law yet, but that is the closest that they have. So if you want to get in, you need to start reading about the General Data Protection Regulation and understanding the core principles, first of all. Now, the GDPR has 99 articles. Nobody expects that you must know all of them. When I first started, I thought, oh God, am I going to have to cram this? I'm not a lawyer. And also, let me bust a myth there. You don't have to be a lawyer. I don't have a law background, but you've got to be somebody who is ready to read and read and read. I have some exams coming up because you have to keep developing yourself. You have to keep building. You have to keep abreast of the changes in legislation, in privacy laws. It's crazy. So if you're not somebody who likes to read and to keep up to date with things, maybe you need to look away. But one place to start is an understanding of the General Data Protection Regulation, okay? Professional certifications, I didn't have. I think I just did some crash course. Then there wasn't anything. IAPP wasn't a big thing then, just the International Association of Privacy Professionals, whenever you see IAPP. But now, if you look online, you see jobs that say, and it's not a mandatory one, it might just be desirable. They might just say if you have any of the IAPP certifications, maybe like your CIPPE, which is one for practicing in Europe. So it's really around the GDPR principles. A certification to have, nice to have, but it's not a prerequisite. I didn't have one for getting in. And people who have gotten jobs through us, some of them did not, Faith did not have, I don't think she's even gotten any certification, and she's been working as a, but yeah, so, and then experience. So people ask that, oh, I know a few people who are saying, oh, I have law background. It's a good one because it's good to see on your CV that you have law background, you have a law background, whether you've practiced before or you got a, qualification. I think it just means that you kind of have an understanding of policies, and it might be easier for you to pick that up. It's a good place to have, and it's a good, nice to have on your CV, but it's not a mandatory requirement that you must have that. But one thing that is absolutely important is that you have an understanding of how to apply these principles. Okay, so you can go and read them, but if you don't know how to apply them, because at the end of the day, businesses, all they care about is how can you help us to be compliant. Okay, and so it's not for you to get on a job and you're quoting the articles. Article 5 says this, Article 30 says this, that. No, right now, I think what we're trying to do at work, we're even removing where we quoted all those articles. We want it to be business speak, what the business understands. I remember my very first job. Then I was very still fresh. I was memorizing Article 5, Article 7, and so when we were engaging the business and I was working on this project and I would say Article says that my manager was like, what does that mean in business simple language? How can you help us to articulate and break this down so that we can understand what we need to do to be compliant? We can understand the impact on us as a business. So you are not expected. All you need to do is at least one project. You've been able to see that, okay, as a privacy professional and you join a GDPR compliance program, you have seen one project, you've seen how, because it's quite broad. There is no one organization that will say they have it all done, they have fully compliant, because as you are getting GDPR compliant in some aspects, but you are expanding into other regions and there are privacy considerations to be made. There are different legislations, being initiated and all of that. You've got to pick those up. So as a privacy professional, you've got to keep updating yourself. So it's a never ending. You can't say I'm until I know everything. But as a starting point, the core principles of the GDPR, which I will talk about shortly, is enough. And then how to apply these principles on a very high level on at least one project is enough for you to get a job. And then by the time you get there, you can start developing as you go along. And of course, your transferable skills will come to play. What is the role of a privacy analyst or a subject matter expert? So you see jobs that will say privacy analyst, privacy advisor. In fact, these days you can see a GDPR business analyst. I think Faith, one of the ladies that finished from us, had her first contract GDPR business analyst. So you can see all of that, but essentially it is just what a privacy does. So, privacy analyst does. What do you do? Your core day to day. You're supporting data privacy regulations and compliance, really, like I said. So an organization is operating in the EU or looking to expand into different markets. They want to make sure that they're compliant. They want to make sure that, okay, are there any recent changes? Recently I was working on China compliance, just understanding what are the requirements, because we're looking to expand into China and they're very strict. So what do we need as a business to ensure that we have all our docs lined up in a row, we are compliant, with those requirements there. And so you as a privacy analyst, you will now go and do your investigation to understand what's the privacy law in China, and to the extent that it impacts the business, you will now help them to flesh that out, and you design that compliance program, as it were, how they can actually achieve compliance. So that is you. And then driving information flow mapping. So now I talked about understanding how the data flows within a business. One thing that everybody had to think about during the GDPR compliance time was, how do we know where our data flows? where does our data reside? What are the sources? How do we capture the data? How does it flow? Where does it end? Who has access to the data? So that is what you call your data mapping, or just call it data mapping, okay? So one of the things that a privacy analyst would do is to help an organization to carry out that. And that was my very first rodeo. That was my very first project. And there are different ways. I'll talk about that quickly, different techniques as well, frameworks, models that you can use to be able to go into an organization to help them to carry out their data mapping exercise. At the moment, that's something that we are doing in this current organization, and it's a long process, especially depending on the size of the organization and all of that. What else do? You are reviewing policies and procedures. So data protection, privacy policies, that's your job. Sometimes when you first start, you might not be involved in doing that because it's a bit more senior. I think in my previous organization, I was the only one that was reviewing certain policies until I was able to train up my team, and then others were able to do it. But starting out, it depends. If it's a small organization and they say we want you to be reviewing policies, now the standard is that you as a privacy analyst should collaborate and work with legal. So if you are lucky and there's a legal person or a legal department that has privacy expertise, and they can, you might be lucky. But in my past organization, we didn't have, so we had to outsource some of that bit. So you have outside counsel, because as a privacy analyst, nobody's expecting you to go and write the policy from beginning. So there would be templates. Sometimes the legal will provide that. So you will only review the data protection provisions and all of that within that policy. So you are working with different teams to finalize the policy going forward. So, but if it's a big organization like my current one, we have huge legal capability, and we can look at policies. But that is something that you'll be doing on a day-to-day basis, depending. And then what you call privacy impact assessment, that is such a big one as well. So for example, if you're supporting a tech team that is, right now, I'm sitting within a software development, and so we build softwares. Okay, and so you would now be saying, okay, the users of the software, where are we talking about privacy considerations that we need to think about? There is what you call privacy by design. So as you're designing, or as the team is designing this new application, you as a privacy analyst, you're working with them to say, okay, we need to think about ensuring that the privacy considerations are being made. For example, launching an app. You see these days, when you launch an app, you will have a pop-up that would have like a privacy statement, will say, this app, we're tracking, we're using this. If you want us to track, your geolocation or whatnot, maybe consent, all of those things. These are the things that the privacy SME will be, advising the business to ensure that they've got that. Because sometimes users can actually flag that your app is not compliant. Now, I remember those days, Apple, I think there was something on Facebook where they introduced some restrictions, within EU and all of that. So you couldn't track users until there was consent and all of that. So a lot of app developers had to ensure that they implemented that requirement. They met that requirement because a user could flag that up. So as a user, you are in a position to report an organization that is not compliant. So if you go onto their website and they are using cookies, there is no cookie banner, there is no cookie notice, you can actually go to the supervisory authority. So that's the thing about the whole GDPR, which we'll talk about. It has now given data subjects more control of how their data is handled and is used. So that's the whole concept. So as a privacy analyst, you'll be looking at privacy impact assessment. What is the privacy impact on this particular app that we're talking about, or this website? How intrusive will it be if we're not notifying users that we are dropping cookies on their machines. And there is what you call the notice and transparency requirement of the GDPR. If you do not do that, of course, you are in breach. You are not compliant. And if you are found out, you could be penalized. So you as a privacy, you are helping the organization to minimize risks, to save them from being penalized. And so you've got to understand the principles around privacy and data protection so that when they are building this thing, right now I'm working on something with a marketing team. And I'm putting together a marketing guidance doc to say, okay, if we are going to be collecting data of people within UK, there is what you call the UK GDPR, and it talks about there are certain requirements with regards to privacy or the way that people, or the way that businesses use your information, the way that we send emails, the way that we capture your information. Do we just not even have a privacy policy? Do we not have anything on the site? So there are principles. So you as a privacy analyst, you would have to support the business to ensure that those things are being adhered to so that the business doesn't enter hot soup. This is just somebody who, of course, Helen got a job as a privacy analyst. There's no time for that. So quickly, let me talk about the whole way it starts from. Give me a second. My son just came in here. So let's talk about where the whole way starts from, okay? The UK data protection regime, of course, I think I already mentioned that. 2018, May 25th was when it came into effect. And in case you're wondering what is personal data, under the GDPR, there you have it. So your name, address, IP address, cookie identifier, racial identity, biometric data, location data, religious affiliation, sexual orientation, and then so much more is what under the GDPR calls personal data. Now, this is something that you should know about as you're looking to get into this space. Start reading about GDPR and Data Protection Act 2018. Personal data is where, is what the GDPR really, really is careful about, doesn't care about anything else. So we're not talking about, maybe intellectual property and all this other, corporate information, as it were, but it is personal data. So always remember that. Now, this is something I just wanted to put out there. So, for example, you got a job tomorrow and they asked you, okay, can you help us to become GDPR compliant? This was something that helped me. And this is something that was, I think it was put out when organizations didn't know where to start, because the GDPR, of course, was very new then. So a lot of people didn't even know where to start. And so these are the 12 steps according to the ICO. The ICO is the Information Commissioner's Office, and which, of course, before the UK exited the EU, before Brexit, the ICO was more, was the supervisory authority. But of course, now there is the UK GDPR. Of course, it mirrors the EU GDPR, but that's another question for another day. But this was where organizations started from. So if, for example, you went into a small organization, or you're thinking about, if you want to gain experience and you want to start thinking about, okay, let me even look at a small organization, a charity, a church. I remember those days I reached out to my church and I was like, I'm trying to build my portfolio. I'm trying to build experience around this. Are you guys thinking about GDPR? Do you have a DPO? Can I do this? Can I do that? So you can actually think about that if you're looking for experience. And these are the 12 steps that you need to know. One, awareness is very important, that the organization are aware of what the GDPR is about, the core principles, and then getting an understanding of the information held. So I talked about data mapping. That's very important, as organizations will need to know where their data flows, whether it's inbound or outbound, because if you don't know your data, where your data flows or how your data flows, then you won't even know what to do to ensure that you are having technical and organizational measures in place to safeguard the data. So you've got to know how the data flows. And it is a privacy professional that will support that initiative. Okay, and then communicating privacy information, making the organization aware, you're training your employees on data handling practices because you want to minimize risk. A lot of times it might be the privacy professional that will be asked to maybe work with HR to design that training content. That's something that I've done before and I'm still doing. So that might be you. There is consent. I'll talk about that. Everybody knows about that. You have to give your consent, to businesses for them to process your data. Although consent is not the only lawful basis, there are several others. Children's information that you process. If you are in an organization that designs something that kids use, and maybe somehow that app, maybe parents use it and they track information about children. I don't know, it could be anything. So there are things that you need to think about. Data breach notification, there are key requirements according to the EU GDPR that you need to look at. There is the 72-hour window. Once a data breach is made known, you must report it. But of course, you'd have done your initial analysis to determine whether that data breach warrants a report or not. And it is usually the privacy professional or privacy advisor that will support the business with doing that. So there might be, you might have, if it's a big organization where they have your incident response team, you might work with them to kind of decide how that would go. And DPOs, data protection officers, as well. It's not mandatory these days, but in some instances, organizations tend to have DPOs. My previous organization, I was a named DPO, but some organizations will say we don't need one. Will outsource that service as and when, and all of that. Okay, now let's look at when you're looking at let's say you have done all your work, and you find yourself on this contract job, and they say, okay, help us to get ready or GDPR compliant. So this was what I presented in my first project. And the IBM model is one that, of course, I think it's been updated recently, but it's a good place to start. If you're saying, how do I even help an organization to become ready or compliant? Remember, this even goes back to business analysis. You need to see where you are. That's always a good place to start. So I always say that my business analysis background has helped me immensely, in this privacy space now, because there's a lot of analytical stuff that you'll be doing. So I know, how to kind of assess a business situation, do a gap analysis. So even within the privacy space, you still need to do a gap analysis. It is a terminology that you'd hear a lot of times. And where you start is you assess where the business is. What is their compliance posture? So if, for example, they're trying to be GDPR compliant to start, where are they? Conduct GDPR risk and privacy assessment across the people, process, data, security. So where are you? Have you done anything? When I started my very first privacy consultant role, they had nothing. I think they had just put a team together 6 months before I joined. So there was nothing at all. So I was asking questions, what's in place? Oh, we've only done this, we've only done that, and all that. So you always start with assessing that compliance maturity, or posture, where are they? Okay, and then based on your findings, and it's another way of using the same technique of whether it's workshop. I had several, I'm sure I must have had over 70 sessions across the time that I was trying to help them with the data mapping work. And it's just organizing. So you have to identify the key functional areas: HR, IT, sales, and all these various areas. You now say, okay, where are you? What are your data handling practices? What are you doing? You design a template, and there's a lot out there now. Back in the days, there wasn't a lot. So I was using Excel. It was manual. It was painful, but now there's a lot of tools that will automate it for you. OneTrust, those of you in the academy, Tolu, I didn't know you were here, but those of you in the academy, you guys know I'm always talking about OneTrust. OneTrust opened doors for me because I learned OneTrust and I became a OneTrust expert. Please go online, check OneTrust. They do free training every now and then. It's intense, but once you do OneTrust and you put that on your CV, it opens doors because they're one of the largest players in the market, very credible, and they have a huge suite of privacy program tools and softwares, and they are very expensive. It's the big players that use OneTrust. But if you start picking up and developing skill and experience on how to use OneTrust, different tools, there are several modules. It's quite modular. Go online and find out OneTrust. Okay, so you start with assessing, develop GDPR readiness roadmap. You have to put a roadmap together to let the business know this is how I'm going to help you get this job done. Identify and map personal data. So your data mapping is super important. Apart from the fact that it helps you to comply with your Article 30 requirement, is also a business. It actually it gives value. It's value adding to the business because then the business has this map of how data flows. They can even generate insights, from this. They can see where their operations are. They can see, how to put security infrastructure in place and all of that. So that is something that a lot of organizations are really embracing now. So if you understand how to help an organization to carry out their data mapping or data inventory, that is a winner. It's always a good place. So as assessment and roadmaps, that's where you start. And then, of course, it says identify GDPR impacts and plan technical. So your TOM is not your target operating model. It is your technical and organizational measures, because that is one of the requirements. So the reason you're identifying this is so that you can then ensure that you've got the right safeguards, whether they are technical or organizational measures, to plug those gaps, to improve your data handling practices. And who will help that business to do that? A privacy professional. And the privacy professional is the one that would design, how to go about these procedures, implementation plan. So once you have assessed and you see where the business is, you see the gaps, you see the requirements, you document the requirements, and you design how to plug it. How do we implement this so that we can be in a defensible position? That is something that most organizations aim for because compliance is so high up there, okay? But we want to be in a defensible position at a certain time. And then we look at how we transform, we ensure that the right procedures, processes, tools, controls are in place, for us, for that organization, and try to operationalize these policies and procedures on an ongoing basis so that it becomes your bread and butter. If, for example, this is a software team business, it will now be part of their way of working to ensure that, okay, when we're designing this, we have to think about data privacy impact assessment, DPIAs, which is something that will be part of their project delivery life cycle. So you as a privacy professional, you are the one that will help them to embed that in the way that they deliver projects. And it just becomes bread and butter, it becomes operational. And then the monitoring element is also part of it. So this is the IBM model, which is a good place to start. So I said here, you may not need to cram or recite the 99 individual articles of the GDPR, which I already said, but you must understand these core principles. I know we are out of time, but let me talk about this. And please go and read more. These are the core principles. Now, a lot of these other legislation that is I talked about, that is, of course, is being introduced across the globe, they really look at the principles are really around this. They're similar. Okay, there might just be a few nuances here and there, but the core principles are as the GDPR principles. And the first thing, lawfulness, fairness, and transparency. What does that mean? That businesses have been mandated, it is, that they must ensure that the way that they handle personal information of data subjects And who are data subjects? They could be customers, they could be contractors, they could be your employees, people whose personal information you hold. That you must ensure that you are doing that in a lawful manner. Okay, and we'll talk about lawfulness. And then you have to be fair and transparent. What does that mean? You find out that when you go onto a lot of websites, you will see privacy policy, you will see a cookie pop-up. It is just adhering to this fairness and transparency principle of the GDPR. It is a legal requirement. And so organizations who fall foul can actually be penalized. You as a data subject can flag it and say this. In fact, we've had, that we've had something like that where someone said, oh, I landed on one of your apps and you dropped cookies. I didn't see the cookie banner. I wasn't able to manage my cookie preference, and you are in breach of, the requirements of the GDPR. And it was something we had to deal with. Okay. So you as a privacy professional, you've got to understand these principles. Okay, purpose limitation, it just means when you are collecting information of, data subjects, personal information, you as a business, as a privacy professional, you've got to advise the business that, hey, let's not collect personal information that we don't need, that we don't have a purpose for. So you've got to make sure that you limit the information that you're collecting to the purpose. For example, I'm landing on a website and I want to purchase something and I want it delivered. There is no reason to ask me for my date of birth. You don't need that for you to process that order and then to even have it delivered. Send it. So you probably need my name, you need my postal, my postcode. So if, for example, you're working with a business and they are designing web forms and asking for the kitchen sink, you need to call that out and say, hey guys, let's limit the fields on this form because we don't need it for anything else apart from X, Y, and Z. So you limit the fields, you limit the data to the specific purpose for which you're collecting it for. So that is the whole principle around that. Storage limitation. Don't burn at those days where marketing teams will have thousands and millions of records in their CRM just sitting there gathering dust. They're not using these records are old, they are dated, which of course is even against the requirement. So you want to limit the records that you store in your CRM. You, again, as a privacy professional, you will have to advise the business to ensure that they have what you call a retention policy. And they've got that where they are refreshing the records. So there is something I'm also working on. So for example, we have records from 6-7 years, and these people haven't engaged with you before, and you've got these records in your marketing database. There's no need for that. And some of this information is sensitive. So you know for a fact that increases the risk. And guess what that means is if that database was hacked tomorrow and it gets into the hand of threat actors, you know for a fact that is high risk, and the information can be used to commit identity fraud, and that puts you at a risk as a business. So you want to minimize the records that you store, especially if you're going to be storing sensitive information. And it's on you, the privacy expert, please mute. It's on you, the privacy subject matter expert, to advise the business to ensure that these principles are adhered to. Data minimization, minimize the records, integrity and confidentiality, accountability. These are core principles that, as a privacy professional, to start, just get an understanding of that. Now, I put this here because I get a lot of questions. People talk about cybersecurity. It is big. Cybersecurity has been around for a long time, and a lot of people are more familiar with that. And they say, how can you maybe use data privacy or being a privacy data protection analyst as a segue into cybersecurity? That is very possible. I think we've had 1 or 2 people who came on and they were like, oh, I want to become cybersecurity. I want to get into cybersecurity, but cybersecurity is somewhat more difficult to get into, in the sense that there is a lot of certifications that is required, and a lot of experience and all of that you need, and it's more technical, okay, to get into. But if you start from the privacy route, and you get some time, you build that experience, you build that confidence, then because a lot of times you find yourself interfacing with the security team, the cybersecurity team, and then it gives you an idea of what that entails. There is synergy in an ideal world, even though these days these 2 functions are quite separate, but ideally they should work together to the extent that they can. So privacy is easier to get into because it doesn't the barrier to entry is lower in comparison with cybersecurity. So it is just one way that you can get in. And the cybersecurity, you start with privacy, become that, pick that up. And then what I have here is, again, you find that cybersecurity teams are actually expecting their teams to have an understanding of privacy and data protection, because these guys they flow into each other. So it's always important, like the whole 2 for the price of 1. So if you are a cybersecurity expert and you have good knowledge of data privacy, at least for the GDPR principles, that is easier. So you don't go into the SMEs to ask, because you already understand these core principles and how to apply them to the extent that it affects and the security element as well. So that's why I put this here. It's just to say that cybersecurity is a bit more technical, to get into, but you can start with this, and then you build your as you go on. Because of time, I won't be able to get into this, but what I will do is I could put this in the group, in the WhatsApp group. Just have a look at it. It's just something that's online. One of the NHS trusts, they were sort of going to carry out gap analysis, and this is essentially what it implies. Can you please mute? Okay, so we'll talk about that. So I remember I mentioned about gap analysis. And so you have to do some more information gathering. Look at, I already mentioned the ICO, the Information Commissioner's Office. Understanding of GDPR principles are important. You can't get a job if you don't understand that. Look at professional certifications. It's not mandatory, but it's also good to get a foot in the door. Experience. I mean, you don't have to have 4 or 5 years. Like I said, I started with 4 months for the project, and that was how, I was able to, but of course, it's how you position yourself. You need to be able to, at least on that CV, say that I have done something, that of course, that is related to maybe GDPR compliance and all of that. And there are several projects that you can do within the academy. I think we've done probably close to 6 GDPR compliance projects. Different groups have done that. So getting a foot in the door, I'm just trying to rush here. So my point here is this is a taster session, so you've got to go and do more reading. But the concept, what you want to understand is those core principles of the GDPR are a must. You've got to understand them. The principles that I just talked about, get to know them. Go and read up GDPR. There is, I'm sure, go onto the ICO, please type that in, Information Commissioner's Office, ICO, go onto the website. There is a lot of resources there. You can start reading around that. Go onto LinkedIn, go onto job boards and search for GDPR jobs and see what they're looking for, so that you've got something to work towards. Professional certifications, the CIPPE, go on to OneTrust. They have free training every now and then. It goes really quick. Sometimes you might not find anything till summertime because they go really fast and they're free. Go on there and start beginning to pick up, some knowledge around there. Join the bootcamp to gain hands-on experience. We have several GDPR compliance projects that we have done, and we have a few in the pipeline. And because this is my area, a lot of I take the course myself. We have trainers for other things, but for privacy, That is my bread and butter. And I take that and I bring on a lot of my real life experiences. When I take that class, everybody would know that. Now, this is just, it's gone crazy now on the slide. But this is just, I think I'll stop here and take questions, and then we'll talk about what this means. And yeah, the recordings will be shared. No links. What link? What link is the person talking about? Does having a HR background help for? Yeah, tell me about what does HR background? One trust, yes. Yep. Can you unmute the person who said does having a HR background help? I'm not sure what that was referring to. You can unmute yourself and share a background, HR background with regards to. I'm not sure. As an immigrant under 5 years, are we eligible? I don't know what that means. I don't know what boot camps. I don't know what boot camps, but boot camps, I think, I don't know. I'm not sure what you mean. We run a boot camp. It's a paid program, which I'll talk about. So but there might be some free boot camps. I don't know. You'd have to research. The person who asked under 5 years eligible to boot camps. I'm not sure what you mean. Okay, but a GRC role in cyber is non-technical. Yeah. So your governance, risk and control. Yeah, it's not. But as you can see, that's just one area, isn't it? So it is quite broad. I was just referencing the fact that if you're looking for an easier route, okay, you can start with privacy, because I think the barrier to entry is lower and is not as heavy in terms of quality requirements, certifications, and codes that cybersecurity will need. That's what I meant. Okay, so that's the privacy. Those have been waiting for privacy. Now, I can't see any specific questions. So type in the chat if you are interested. In fact, I want to know, type if you're interested in business analysis, project management, or privacy. Just type bootcamps or programs sponsored by because on your visa may be written no cost to. Okay, thanks for that, Ido. Okay, so somebody has answered that boot camps or programs sponsored by the government, so you're not eligible, but people like us who are private training providers, we run boot camps, but they are paid boot camps. But I think somebody has answered that for you. So can I get your response, please? Type in the chat, what is your area of interest? I know some of you did in the group chat, but here, now you've listened to software development, now you've listened to project management, business analysis, and privacy. Let me know. Interested in privacy, Damilola. Okay, who else?
Interested in privacy, please. I'm a new person, so I'm just joining in for the first time, and I'm not in any of your groups, please. I'd like to join the privacy class. Just only the privacy, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, that's fine. Boot camps, interested in privacy and projects real life. So they are real life. I don't know if you joined when I was going through the back end. Those projects are real life. We don't do scenarios, we don't do fictitious, we don't do simulations. They are all real life projects. Okay, there's a lot of interest in privacy. Let me tell you about, we are not a government funded organization. Our programs and our boot camps are paid, and I'm going to show you what that. Oh, so there's privacy, business analyst. So nobody's interested. Who's interested in the software development program that Gbenga talked about? Anyone? Okay, BA and Pro. Okay. No software developers. Wow, that's interesting. So, did you guys feel like it was too technical, or can we get some feedback on that, because it's a new thing we're trying to introduce, and we want to know you know, what did you think about, you can unmute yourself, please. Can I get some feedback about the software development class? It looks like a lot of people are interested in privacy, BA, okay. Oh, software testing, we don't do software testing just yet. Somebody's, it's too technical, okay. Too technical, that's fine, okay. I missed out in the software development. Will the recordings be shared? Yes, it will be. Okay, Gbenga, can you see? It's too deep, wow. Okay. Okay, we're gonna round up now. Let me share, sorry, our program. So thank you for coming on. I'm interested in the software. Oh, okay, there's one person. Okay, so our program, right? We're just rounding up now. We run programs that run across. So the software development one is 3 months. That's because this is the first time we're doing it, and it's like the first, they call it a pilot. But our full flagship programs run for 6 months. 4 months internship. So 4 months where you're working on projects. The first 2 months or 6 weeks is all theory. That was that diagram I was going to show, but it's not displaying very well. You start with theory classes. But let me share my slides. And then part of it, privacy. I love the software dev, but it appears difficult. Okay. But Gbenga says he will make it very simple. He will simplify it for you if you are interested. But okay, let me share. So our program runs for 6 months, and it's a combination of theory classes. For those of you going on the BA path, it's all aligned to the IIBA. And then you go through the theory classes, you work on a real life projects, which we give you reference for as soon as you get a job. And also for now, I know we're by summer, we might remove that, but it also includes group CV clinic, where we are helping you to work on your CV. We don't write it for you, we work with you so that you know the CV. And then it's professional. We have softwares that we use to do that. We work with you to get the CV done. And we also have interview prep as well, group interview prep, mock interviews, so you know. And then we have job set strategy, LinkedIn optimization. All of that is part of the full package. You also have access to our learning management system, which you can access 24/7 as far as you are on the program. And how much is a software development training? I'm a data analyst, but will like to go into data privacy. Okay, privacy, I love the software. Okay. Oh, my screen isn't showing. Okay, yeah, I stopped. Okay, I'll show you that in a minute. So that is what you get. That is what you get. Just a minute. I have a lot coming up now. And for the purpose of this, if you go on to, I don't know how many of you have been on our website, the 6 months program is $997 on our website. But for those on this program that have attended this today, we are giving this 6 months program at $897. And if you want to spread the costs, it is $350 times 3 installments. And that is the cost of the program. Whether you want, now the BA and the PM are hybrid. So what we are doing is that we will give you a combination of project management and business analysis, because we feel that it makes sense for you to get a good idea of of 2 of those courses. And as a privacy as well, we give privacy and project management, because as a privacy professional, you'll be involved in projects. So we found that while people have been on our programs, and they didn't go through the project management side, they struggled a little bit. So we are now, yes. We are now incorporating that. So those who have been on this webinar or this masterclass, we're giving that to you, but you've got to sign up within the next 72 hours, or you go back to what is on our website. I know 1 or 2 of you are here who have already signed up, don't worry. but it's just a little difference. So that is it. Certificate of completion is what we give, and reference for the what do you call it, for the project that you've worked on. For your certification, your BA certification, you have to go and write that by yourself. For your IAPP certification, that's not part of what we are offering, but we give you links, we tell you where to go and all of that, but that is on you. We don't give you the certification just yet. We are working on the IBA endorsement. That is something that's going to happen in a few months' time. That is not on offer because that's going to be more high. It's going to be higher, but we don't give you certification. We will only signpost you to how you can get those certifications. It's not part of the program. We are big on getting you job market ready. So that's why the project is important, and we give you the reference. Once you get a job, we will give you reference for the 6 months that you have been with us. And everyone who gets a job, we write a reference for them. Okay. How many people in the class? So averagely, we keep our classes to as small as 10. Not more than 10. When it's bigger than 10, we split it, at least on the projects. Sometimes maybe 12 or so, but we try to keep it to small sizes so that everyone is involved, nobody gets lost. And you also have access to a learning management portal where you create your own account. And we have videos, we have recordings of how to write user stories, how to draw wireframes. All of that is in the learning management portal, and you'll be part of we are on Telegram. We have a community of different people who have been through the program before. You can ask questions, and there is that community there. All our courses are the same. It's the same thing at the moment because it's pretty much, we deliver it, the delivery is the same, it's the same approach. So you go through the theory classes, you get on projects, we take you through our CV clinic. So whether you want to get into project management, business analysis, privacy, so it's all the same cost. So it's either you get 897 within the next 72 hours or 350 times 3 installments, which is also open for the next 72 hours. So if you are interested and you are in the WhatsApp group, indicate, and somebody within the team will send you the link. But what we're going to do is by Monday, we will send out the recording and we'll send out links. If you want to sign up, you want to join us, you can click the link and you can sign up. We already have people waiting to start on the 24th. Oh yeah, quickly. So is it possible to do? Yeah, you can do data privacy. That it's fine. We don't split it. So it's privacy or BA. It's how do I join the WhatsApp and Telegram group is for our paid people who have paid, who are on our paid program, not for everybody. WhatsApp group is just, please, the link is, can you repost the link? And the WhatsApp group will close in the next 1 week. The WhatsApp group was just for this masterclass. Telegram group is for those who have signed up onto our program. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so the classes, we start Saturday. So our new joiners orientation is the 25th. We're moving it. I know 1 or 2 of you have received the invite because you've paid. We want to move it to Thursday because we want our head of program office to join. So that we'll get the email sent out. Those who are starting in January are supposed to start new joiners orientation on the 25th of January. The classes start on the 27th, which is Saturdays. So we start with first 6 Saturdays, 5 or 6, I need to double check. 6 Saturday theory classes, which is all, either depending on the trainer, which will confirm once you sign up. But we start with theory classes on Saturdays. Then we'll put all of this in the WhatsApp group. And then the project work is done in the evenings. Okay, it's done in the evenings between 7 and 9. Once you have finished your theory classes, you get assigned onto a project, a specific project with the rest of your project team. And we say that a minimum of 3 days a week is required. So 2 days project team meetings, and then 1 day is when the group now meets on a Friday to present the deliverables and get feedback, Q&A and all of that. So, and it's usually in the evenings. And so people can do their 9 to 5 jobs. And then once they finish, they can join the project team to do what they're working on. You have access to the tools that we work on. Everything that we do has a template. So if you are working on a deliverable, there is a template. Saturdays, it depends, So for example, some trainers prefer to start early, like 9:30, 10 a.m. But the trainer that is starting this Saturday coming is starting in the afternoon because of our availability. So we are quite flexible. So once you join, we will now ask people we send you a form, you put your availability, we look at that, and then the trainer's availability, and then we kind of see what works better or best for majority. So we're quite flexible. We've had people in care who have shifts, we work at night, we kind of work around them as well. And so if we have more people on shift work, we could put you together in a group so that maybe you do your project work during the day. And then if you have night shift, you can go for your work and stuff like that. So we are quite flexible. But at the moment, those starting in January, the first class is by 2 p.m. But the new joiners orientation is 7:30 coming Thursday for those joining in January. And so I will say any more questions, please ask in the group chat. We're going to end right now. The recording will be sent to everyone who's registered, and all the links would also be in the email. So look out for your email from Monday, of course, not immediately. I think from Monday we'll start sending out, and the WhatsApp group will still be open for another week, so you can ask any more questions. So thank you very much for coming on today. I hope you found it useful, and please, all the things I mentioned, go and do more research, find out for yourself, go onto YouTube, do your Google search, and keep doing. Let's join the WhatsApp group for now. Please share the link. Okay, is Trevor here to join the WhatsApp group? Okay, just a minute, let me see. I think it was posted earlier. Let me see if I can find it. It's not here. It should be, okay, give me a minute. Let me see if I can find it before we go. Trevor, if you're here, can you post the WhatsApp? Sorry, hold on. Or if anybody can you pop in the chat? Anybody in the WhatsApp group? I'm not sure Trevor is not here. I'm just trying to pick it. I can't find it. Sorry. So we're just going to post it now before we close. Can you post? Okay. Right. So if there are no more questions, I am just trying to get that link. And I will post it now. Somebody posted it. Can you just post it? Are you on there? Is he here? Okay, I think I found it now. Okay, right. I will post it and then I will end the call. So it's there. Oh, sorry. Okay, that's it. Anybody who wants to join, that's okay. So good stuff. That's it there. Please join the WhatsApp group and have a good evening and enjoy the rest of your weekend. The recording will be sent to you all your emails, and I look forward to welcoming some of you to the academy. It's really going to be beneficial. Please, did you put the price for the course on the screen? Okay, you know what? This best let me go back on here and just show. I thought I shared my screen, but I already mentioned. Just give me 1 second. There you are. I run that finally. It will be in the WhatsApp group anyway. Oh, it's already done. I already did it. Okay. There you go. So, those of you asking, this is it. I'm just going to drop that there as well. Okay. I can't share my screen for some reason. Okay. There you are. Okay, so anyway, it is 897, but if you want me to run that through for those on this call, it's the same. It's the same. It's the same. I can't share my screen anymore for some reason. If you're in the WhatsApp group, we'll drop it in the chat. Everybody should just click on the link to the WhatsApp group. I can't. It's not letting me share again. I've just dropped the link there. So join and feel free to ask any questions that you have. Yeah. Okay. All right then. Have a good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining. Bye-bye.